Chapter 4187. Sea God's Island. In a majestic hall. Yu Lao sat at the top, while Neptune and the dragon god sat on the left. The three of them were silent, and the atmosphere was particularly depressing. About half an hour passed. The king, the divine king, and the sovereign of humanity had just arrived. What is the meaning of this? I told you to come here immediately, but you waited for so long. It seems that you really don't put Yu Lao in your eyes. The dragon god suddenly stood up and glared at the three of them. Are you a dog? Bite whoever you see? Such a big thing has happened, and everyone is in a panic. Shouldn't we calm everyone down first? The divine king stared at the dragon god. The dragon god really didn't like anyone right now. In short, he just wanted to find a punching bag to vent his anger. But obviously, he found the wrong target. The king and the other two in the divine kingdom, which one of them had a lower status than the dragon god? Was it possible to use them as punching bags? Enough. Yu Lao's face darkened. He glared at the dragon god, looked at the king and the other two, and waved his hand weakly. Sit down. The three of them sat on the seats on the right. Yu Lao asked, what's the situation outside now? It's very chaotic. Living beings from all over the place are discussing this matter, afraid that they will be implicated. I'm afraid it won't be possible to completely calm them down in a short time, the king sighed. It's all within my expectations. This old man also didn't expect this Long Chen to have such a terrifying secret technique. This can't go on, otherwise, our divine kingdom will be destroyed by them sooner or later, Yu Lao said in a deep voice. Yes, the king nodded, looked at the silent Neptune sitting opposite him, and asked, how is the situation of the sea gods now? Neptune clenched his fists and said with a gloomy look in his eyes, they are all disheartened. I'm afraid it will be difficult for them to walk out of this shadow for the rest of their lives. Now that things have come to this, don't be too sad. After all, the Oceanids still have to rely on you. If you fall, everyone will completely lose their backbone. The king consoled. Yes. Neptune nodded and took a deep breath. He looked up at Yu Lao and said, these people must be killed in the cradle. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. That's right. If what Tianpeng and the various sea gods said is true, then Qin Feiyang and his group must have obtained at least several tens of thousands of ultimate ultimacies of ultimate laws. These ultimate profundities are enough to create a large number of will of the heavens experts in a very short period of time. The dragon god nodded in agreement. Just thinking about this number sent chills down his spine. What about you guys? Yu Lao looked at the monarch and the other two. We have the same intentions as Neptune and the dragon god. However, there is a problem in front of us now. Qin Feiyang has already risen. The Eye of Heaven, 3,000 incarnations, the law of life and death, and 2 wills of the heavens. These are not things that we can contend against. The monarch sighed. There is also Long Qin and the golden-winged wolf king. They have also grasped the will of the heavens. Putting Long Qin aside, the golden-winged wolf king's battle soul is, in a sense, no less terrifying than Qin Feiyang's 3,000 incarnations. As for Long Chen, Mu Qing, the demon ancestor, Mu Tianyang, and Dong Zhengyang, although they have not grasped the will of the heavens, their battle souls are also heaven-defying. For example, Long Chen's battle soul's god's domain can even restrain the 3,000 incarnations of the purple-gold divine dragon clan. To be honest, it is really beyond our ability to deal with this group of people. The human race's sovereign sighed deeply, his face full of helplessness. From what you said, are you going to watch them continue to be so arrogant? The dragon god said angrily. Is there something wrong with your head? Isn't this a discussion? If you have the ability, go and find him directly. What are you still sitting here for? Even though the human race's sovereign had a good temper, he could not help but be angry at this moment. I was thinking of going to find him, but unfortunately, he didn't dare to appear. The dragon god sneered. What are you being so arrogant for? Your greatest reliance is nothing more than the origin energy that the Lord Ruler gave you. But now, Neptune's origin energy has fallen into his hands. Your so-called advantage is gone. The divine king's face was full of ridicule. Hearing this, the dragon god suddenly stood up, and suddenly became angry out of humiliation. Sit down. Yu Lao snorted coldly. The dragon god said in a deep voice, Yu Lao, they are obviously boosting the morale of others and destroying our own prestige. What they said makes sense. Don't think that Qin Feiyang and the others have fewer people. If they join forces, they can be compared to our thousands of troops. Yu Lao sighed. The several strongest war spirits were a very difficult problem to deal with. Yu Lao is still the sensible one, unlike some people who only know how to be unreasonable. The divine king glanced at the dragon god and smiled coldly. Enough, enough. Shut up, all of you. Actually, it's not that we don't have a chance to deal with Qin Feiyang. The brothers Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian, they were specially brought by me to deal with Qin Feiyang. But this Qin Feiyang has never confronted us head-on. Yu Lao rubbed his forehead, his face full of irritation. Are the brothers Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian that strong? The divine king and the others looked at each other. Yu Lao said, haven't you experienced Lu Yuntian's strength? Yes, I have. His demon king true body is indeed very powerful, but Qin Feiyang also has 3,000 incarnations. In addition, he also has the law of life and death, the eye of heaven, and 2 wills of heaven. In that case, Lu Yuntian shouldn't be Qin Feiyang's opponent, right? The king frowned. Do you think Lu Yuntian's strength is only this much? Let me tell you, if he goes all out, none of you rulers of the divine kingdom can last more than 5 rounds in his hands. There's also Lu Yunfeng. Although he hasn't made a move, his strength is enough to easily defeat you. Yu Lao smiled faintly. The hearts of the 5 leaders trembled. So strong? Lu Yunfeng, Lu Yuntian, and the origin force in the dragon god's hands. If Qin Feiyang dares to face them head-on, even if he has obtained the origin force in Neptune's hands, he will still die without a doubt. But the problem now is, how can we make him fight us head-on? At this point, Yu Lao frowned. He had been pondering this problem, but he couldn't think of a good plan. A head-on battle, the king pondered for a while and shook his head. This group of people is not only terrifying, but they are also very rational. For example, if it were someone else who obtained the origin force in Neptune's hands, they would definitely stir up trouble everywhere. However, this Qin Feiyang hasn't made a move until now. So, to make them fight us head-on is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Doesn't he have any friends or relatives? Yu Lao frowned. Your question, the king smiled bitterly. Yu Lao was stunned for a moment before he reacted with an awkward expression. He asked a very stupid question. How could a group of foreign invaders have friends and family in the divine kingdom? Yes. The dragon god suddenly spoke. Huh? Everyone looked at the dragon god. The dragon god stared at the king and said word by word, Qin Feiyang's family is your purple gold divine dragon clan. What do you mean? The king frowned. He is the descendant of your daughter, which means he is also the descendant of your purple gold divine dragon clan. Blood is thicker than water. This is something that can't be severed. So, I have a plan. The dragon god's eyes flickered. When the king heard this, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He thought that the dragon god had seen through the alliance between the purple gold divine dragon clan and Qin Feiyang. What plan? Yu Lao asked. Let the king show weakness and look for Qin Feiyang. I believe that as a descendant of the purple gold divine dragon clan, Qin Feiyang will more or less have some thoughts about the purple gold divine dragon clan. Not to mention letting the king gain Qin Feiyang's trust. As long as the king can invite him out, we can launch an encirclement and annihilate them. The dragon god smiled coldly. Makes sense. Yu Lao nodded and turned to look at the king. The king frowned. What are you hesitating for? Don't tell me you also have some thoughts about Qin Feiyang. The dragon god's eyes narrowed slightly. When the king heard this, he raised his eyebrows and was furious on the spot. Seeing this, Yu Lao hurriedly shouted, "Dragon god, watch your words." The dragon god pursed his lips and fell silent. Yu Lao looked at the king and smiled apologetically. Because of Tianping, the dragon god is now angry, so his mood is a little irritable. Don't bother with him, tell me your concerns. The king nodded, pondered for a while, and sighed. Although he has the bloodline power of the purple gold divine dragon, I don't think he has any thoughts about the purple gold divine dragon clan. How do you know if you don't try? The dragon god said. There is no need to try this kind of thing at all. Because my purple gold divine dragon clan participated in the 2 invasions of the sky cloud realm. Let's talk about the first time. Ji Yunhai brought people to the Nether King's Hell, causing the entire Nether King's Hell to be plunged into misery and suffering, and the Blood Demon clan was almost wiped out. And I heard that Qin Feiyang and the Blood Demon clan have a very good relationship. The second time, Qin Feiyang comprehended the law of life and death to pass the tribulation. The heavenly monarch, the divine king, and I personally came to the sky cloud realm to kill him. Think about it, if it were you, would you still have thoughts about the purple gold divine dragon clan? If he really had thoughts about the purple gold divine dragon clan, he wouldn't have hidden my daughter and not even let me see her. The king let out a deep sigh. This sigh was actually because he felt sorry for the divine kingdom's princess encounter in the sky cloud realm. She had sacrificed so much for the sky cloud realm, but in the end, she was sealed in the land of buried gods. As the instigators, the Dragon King, Feng Ho, and the Qilin Lord, even if he peeled off their skin, it would still be difficult to relieve the anger in his heart. That makes sense. Yu Lao nodded, thought for a while, and looked at the king with a smile, but we can still give it a try, just in case, right? All right. Since Yu Lao insists, then I'll do my best. The king nodded and immediately took out the divine voice stone. Buzz. Soon. Heavenly Lord Ji's figure appeared. Father. Heavenly Lord Ji bowed. The king ordered, immediately spread the news that I'm inviting Qin Feiyang to the purple gold divine dragon clan as a guest. What does that mean? Heavenly Lord Ji was stunned. Just do as I say. In short, do everything you can to make Qin Feiyang agree to meet me. The king waved his hand. Okay. Heavenly Lord Ji nodded and the shadow quickly dissipated. The king put away the divine voice stone and looked at Yu Lao, saying, I've already arranged it. Whether it works or not, it depends on luck. Then let's wait here for the news now. Yu Lao smiled slightly. Hearing this, the divine king and the human race's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. Wait here for the news? Then how would they inform Qin Feiyang that this was a trap? Chapter 4188. Is there a problem? Noticing the abnormality of the divine king and the human race supreme, Yu Lao asked suspiciously. Could it be that he's guilty? The dragon god looked at the two of them playfully. I'm flattering you by saying that you're brainless. The divine king raised his eyebrows and looked at the dragon god mockingly. What did you say? Personal attacks at every turn. Let me tell you, don't go too far. The dragon god stomped his feet in anger. Why don't you think about it? Qin Feiyang is such a cautious person. If he knew that the king wanted to see him, wouldn't he let Mu Qin check the king's whereabouts? When he knows that the king is on the sea god's island and is with you, wouldn't he know that this might be a trap? And you're saying that we're feeling guilty? Next time when you say something like this, you'd better think it through first. Don't make a fool of yourself. The divine king smiled coldly. The dragon god's face burned when he heard this. He actually didn't think of such a simple logic. Ahem. Yu Lao coughed dryly and said with a smile, the divine king's concerns aren't unreasonable. King, you should return to your tribe first. If there's any news, inform us immediately. Okay. The king nodded, got up, opened a space-time passage, and walked in quickly. Let's retreat first. Otherwise, being with a certain someone for too long will lower our IQ. The divine king snorted coldly. The human race supreme shook his head and laughed. The dragon god pointed at their backs and said angrily, Yu Lao, look, what kind of attitude is that? Ahem. Yu Lao coughed and said with a smile, Dragon god, if you have nothing to do in the future, don't talk so much, lest we embarrass ourselves with you. The dragon god's body stiffened. Neptune's blow is no less than yours, but look at Neptune, and then look at yourself. Yu Lao shook his head, got up and left quickly. To put it bluntly, the dragon god was now like a mad dog, biting whoever he saw. Black Tortoise World. Currently, no one was walking outside the Devil's Land. Because they were all in seclusion. The ultimate profundity of the 6 strongest laws, the will of the heavenly Tao. Such a fortuitous encounter could only be encountered by chance. Therefore, no matter who it was, they all cherished this opportunity. As for Qin Feiyang, after obtaining the origin energy, he went into seclusion to comprehend the law of nothingness. Although he had already grasped quite a number of ultimate meanings, he was still a long way from grasping all of them. Wang. But suddenly, the sound of the divine sound transmission stone roused him from his seclusion. He took it out and saw that it was the monarch. Sending him a voice transmission at this time, could it be that he was here to ask him for the ultimate profound? He pondered for a moment. He activated the divine sound transmission stone. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He was really here for his ultimate profound meaning. And he asked for 5,000 at once? Do you think that these ultimate profound meanings of the strongest law are radishes and cabbages that can be found everywhere on the street? Do you dare to bet? The monarch's eyes were full of provocation. Then what is your reward? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. I won't reveal it for the time being, but I guarantee that it will surprise you. The monarch smiled mysteriously. Qin Feiyang was in a dilemma. 5,000 ultimate profound meanings of the strongest law was not a small number. Although there was still a lot left, wouldn't it be better for him to keep it in his hands? But the monarch's reward would definitely not be ordinary. You don't dare? Just say it. The monarch laughed. Don't provoke me, I won't fall for it. However, I can still give it a try. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. The monarch invited him to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan as a guest. And he even announced it to the public so blatantly. Obviously, it didn't make sense. What kind of trick was hidden in this? Wait a minute. Suddenly, he realized an important point. The monarch seemed to have mentioned that he had just returned from the Sea God Island and discussed the strength of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin with Yu Lao. Gradually, a trace of a smile crept onto his face. Seeing this, the monarch's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. Could it be that he had really guessed it? A moment passed. Qin Feiyang finally looked up at the monarch and said with a smile, "If I'm not wrong, your invitation should be a trap." The monarch's mouth twitched. This kid really saw through it. It seems that my judgment is correct. Although I now have Neptune's origin force, with the origin force in the hands of the dragon god, plus brother Lu Yunfeng, and the 5 major clans, it's still possible to kill me. However, if I don't confront you directly, no matter how strong you are, you won't have a chance to kill me. So, Yu Lao and the others thought of letting you get close to me and lure me out. As long as I show up, they can encircle and annihilate me. Qin Feiyang laughed. The monarch was stunned when he heard that. He actually guessed it correctly. What kind of brain does this kid have? It was as if he saw it with his own eyes. How about it? If you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. Qin Feiyang smiled proudly. Who said you guessed it right? The monarch came back to his senses and snorted coldly. Isn't that the case? Qin Feiyang looked at the monarch mockingly and said with a smirk, but your reaction is enough to explain everything. Don't try to act shamelessly. The monarch's mouth twitched, and he coughed dryly. Do you want to find a chance to get rid of Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yunfeng? You're changing the topic. Qin Feiyang said with a dark face. No. This is serious business. The monarch shook his head. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly and shook his head. I can't kill these two. I haven't made a move on the dragon god because I don't want to fight with them. Why? The monarch was puzzled. Qin Feiyang hesitated for a moment and shook his head. I have my concerns, I hope you can understand. Concerns? The monarch was puzzled. Since they were enemies, he had to find a way to get rid of them. What concerns could he have? You will know in the future. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. You kid, you're always so mysterious. Fine. I won't ask about this. The reward I promised you, I will personally deliver it to you in a while. The monarch smiled faintly. There's really a reward? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He thought it was just a joke. Who am I? I am the monarch of the divine kingdom. Of course, I mean what I say. The monarch smiled proudly and then turned off the voice transmission stone. Qin Feiyang was stunned. When he came back to his senses, he couldn't help but look forward to it. In the blink of an eye. Outside. Half a year had passed. In this half a year, everyone's attention was focused on the purple gold divine dragon clan, but Qin Feiyang didn't appear. Will he come? The monarch's invitation is a great honor. Honor? That's only for us. For Qin Feiyang, the monarch's invitation is probably worthless. Although the purple gold dragon blood flows in his body, he is not a purple gold divine dragon after all. Moreover, our divine kingdom invaded the sky cloud realm twice, and all of this was the monarch's order. So for the purple gold divine dragon clan, Qin Feiyang probably only has hatred in his heart. That's not necessarily true. No matter who it is, they definitely want to acknowledge their ancestors. Maybe this Qin Feiyang still has a trace of affection for the purple gold divine dragon clan. Regarding the grudge between Qin Feiyang and the purple gold divine dragon clan, the various continents had differing opinions. But Neptune, the dragon god, and Yu Lao were all upset. Half a year had passed, and there was still no news. Did he really not have any thoughts about the purple gold divine dragon clan? Besides, this was the monarch's invitation. Even if he didn't have any thoughts about the purple gold divine dragon clan, out of respect for his elders, shouldn't he at least reply? Chapter 4189. But in the Black Tortoise realm, there was a piece of great news. In the sky, golden auspicious clouds covered the entire sky of the Devil's Land as if they were plated with a layer of gold leaf. Waves of heavens might spread in all directions. Frenzy stood above the ancient castle, looking up at the sky, his face was full of excitement. That's right. After such a long time of bitter cultivation, he finally welcomed the arrival of the will of heaven. Voila! The will of heaven poured down like a waterfall, quickly drowning Frenzy. At this moment, Frenzy felt as if he was lying in his mother's embrace. His body and mind were incomparably comfortable. Li Feng, Mu Qing, and the others who were in seclusion couldn't help but feel envious when they sensed the aura of the will of heaven. However, no one came out to watch the show. They all wanted to fuse with the ultimate profound and grasp the will of heaven as soon as possible. A moment later, the clouds in the sky finally dispersed. Huh, Frenzy laughed happily. I say, you just grasped a will of heaven, is there a need to be so cocky? The white-eyed wolf's voice sounded. Not convinced? Let's have a fight. Frenzy bared his teeth. Who has time to care about you? The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly, but there was no trace of him. Boring. Frenzy pouted. All of them were in seclusion. Even if he wanted to be cocky, he couldn't find anyone. Clang. The next moment, a loud explosion resounded, shocking everyone in all directions. Frenzy was startled and quickly looked at the castle. What's going on? Qin Feiyang and Dan Wangkai, who were in seclusion in the castle, also hurriedly ran out, their faces full of surprise. It's not you guys who caused the commotion? Frenzy asked. No. Qin Feiyang and Dan Wangkai shook their heads. Then what's going on? Frenzy sized up the castle. Suddenly, as if thinking of something, he said in surprise, could it be, boom? But before he could say anything, the aura of the castle erupted. And it soared like a rocket. The three of them looked at each other. Immediately after, ecstasy appeared on their faces. Obviously, the castle was evolving. The castle had evolved into an intermediate-level Dominator divine weapon. This moment had finally arrived. Boom! A short while later, the ancient castle's aura had indeed risen to the level of a mid-level sovereign divine weapon. Even though there were no changes to his body, the divine might that he emanated was completely different from before. A mid-level Dominator weapon, this was a qualitative leap. It also represented the transformation of the Black Tortoise realm. This was because the ancient castle and the Black Tortoise world were inseparable. When the ancient castle evolved into a mid-level sovereign divine weapon, it also meant that the Black Tortoise world strength had reached the mid-level sovereign divine weapon level. In other words, now, low-grade sovereign weapons and one or two ultimate profound meanings were no longer a threat to the Black Tortoise world. Clang! Clang! Before he could congratulate the castle, a series of deafening explosions rang out in the sky. The three of them hurriedly raised their heads and looked at the sky. They saw tribulation clouds rolling over, and the heavenly might shrouded the entire area. What's the situation? The castle is undergoing a tribulation? Didn't you say that it doesn't need to undergo tribulation when it evolves? Madman was bewildered. Something's not right. It's not the castle's tribulation. Qin Feiyang shook his head and stared at the tribulation clouds in the sky. The lightning in the clouds were like giant pythons, densely packed. The amount of lightning had already far exceeded the heavenly tribulation of a sovereign divine weapon. In short, in such a situation, there was definitely more than one person undergoing tribulation. Swish! At this time, Little Wimp appeared. Along with him were 15 heaven-defying divine weapons. They were all familiar divine weapons. There was the Sunset Divine Bow, White Phoenix Divine Sword, Qilin Divine Sword, Demon Dragon Sword, Seven Star Staff, Axe, and so on. It can't be. Madman's eyes widened in anger. 15 heaven-defying divine weapons evolving at the same time? Because of the evolution of the ancient castle and the Black Tortoise world, the origin energy has increased greatly. As a result, these heaven-defying divine weapons have broken the shackles and welcomed the heavenly tribulation. Quickly bring them out to undergo tribulation. Little Wimp urged. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded his head. He didn't expect that the evolution of the ancient castle and the Black Tortoise world would bring about such benefits. Wait. Madman reached out and stopped Qin Feiyang. He looked at Little Wimp and said, if we bring them out to undergo tribulation now, won't it be a bit dangerous? Hearing this, Qin Feiyang also calmed down. That's right. Right now, Yu Lao, Dragon God, and Neptune were all waiting for him to appear. Then what should we do? We can't undergo tribulation in the Black Tortoise world, right? Little Wimp frowned. It shouldn't be a problem to undergo tribulation in the Black Tortoise world. After all, the Black Tortoise world has already reached the level of mid-level sovereign divine weapons, and these divine weapons are only the heavenly tribulation of low-level sovereign divine weapons. Madman said. This, Little Wimp hesitated for a moment and said helplessly, then let's try it first. If it really doesn't work, then we'll bring them out. Qin Feiyang took a step forward and landed in front of Little Wimp. He looked at the group of heaven-defying divine weapons and smiled, let me congratulate you first for finally welcoming your heavenly tribulation. These heaven-defying divine weapons in front of him, each of them had fought with him, so seeing them evolve, he was happy from the bottom of his heart. Moreover, he had promised that all the heaven-defying divine weapons that followed him would try their best to evolve into sovereign divine weapons. Although it wasn't all of them now, it was still a good start. I have to thank you for this. If it wasn't for you, how could we have the chance to evolve? The 7 Stars Rod said. His words were filled with gratitude. Once upon a time, the dragons didn't even dare to think that one day it would evolve into a sovereign divine weapon. We're all companions who have gone through life and death together. You're treating me like an outsider. Let's begin the tribulation. Qin Feiyang smiled and shouted, blazing magic sword, come out and help. This sovereign is a mid-level sovereign divine weapon, how can I become a tool? The heavens are unfair. The blazing magic sword sighed and ran out. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and ordered, you are responsible for sealing the aura of the heavenly tribulation. You must do your best. If the Devil's Land, Central State, and the 4 great regions are affected by the heavenly tribulation, I will hold you responsible. Tyrant. The blazing magic sword snorted coldly. The sovereign divine weapon rolled out and sealed off all directions. With a thought from Qin Feiyang, 3,000 incarnations appeared as well, and all the ultimate mysteries were activated. However, the aura of these ultimate mysteries were all restrained. This was to prevent the Black Tortoise realm from being hurt. After all, 3,000 life and death kingdoms, and 18,000 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. If they didn't restrain their edge, the Black Tortoise realm would have been razed to the ground before the heavenly tribulation descended. Boom! Finally, the first heavenly tribulation of the 15 divine weapons descended. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and all the ultimate mysteries immediately rushed into the sky and floated below the clouds. The 15 heavenly tribulations were like a torrent, crashing onto it. Waves of terrifying energy fluctuations immediately spread out. This void was annihilated on the spot. Clang! At this time, the ancient castle also rose into the air, and together with the blazing magic sword, sealed off the fluctuations. However, even if 2 mid-level sovereign divine weapons joined forces, it was still very difficult to face the impact of this fluctuation. After all, 15 divine weapons were undergoing tribulation at the same time. Moreover, the power of the heavenly tribulation was originally very terrifying. It seems that it won't last long. Brat frowned. If he didn't consider the Devil's Land, Central State, and the 4 great regions, it didn't matter. But the problem now was that he couldn't hurt these places. Because now, even in the Western region, there were countless living beings, and he couldn't let everyone move. Gotcha. the second heavenly tribulation descended. Compared to the first heavenly tribulation, the power increased by a bit. No, no. You guys better hurry up and go out, Brat urged. He pondered in his heart. It seemed that in the future, he had to make a special place for the living beings of the Black Tortoise realm to undergo tribulation. But it was only limited to ordinary heavenly tribulations. For example, the heavenly tribulation of a sovereign divine weapon, it was best not to be in the Black Tortoise realm, unless the Black Tortoise realm grew to the same size as the Sky Cloud realm. Go out and undergo tribulation, Qin Feiyang murmured. Where would he go to undergo tribulation that wouldn't be discovered by Yu Lao, Neptune, and the Dragon God? Why don't we use the origin power? Madman looked at Brat and laughed. Get lost. The origin power has to be saved for the critical moment. Moreover, there are so many heaven-defying divine weapons evolving now. Once they succeed, we will need more origin power in the future. Brat's face darkened as he said angrily. Then where can we go to undergo tribulation? Once they went out, it would definitely alarm everyone. At that time, they would definitely fall into a situation of being surrounded. I thought of a place. Suddenly, Dan Wangkai said. Where? Qin Feiyang and Madman immediately looked at Dan Wangkai. The forbidden area where the gate of the divine kingdom was. Dan Wangkai said. That's right. Qin Feiyang and Madman slapped their heads. This forbidden area was behind the West Continent, and the East Continent was opposite the West Continent. Yu Lao, the Dragon God, and Neptune who were in the East Continent definitely couldn't sense the aura of the heavenly tribulation. After all, the heavenly tribulation of the sovereign divine weapon was much weaker than Qin Feiyang's second will of the heavenly Tao. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the third heavenly tribulation fell. Destructive fluctuations crazily attacked the barrier set up by the castle and the flame magic sword. The barrier kept twisting. Indeed, it couldn't hold on for long. Very decisive. Qin Feiyang immediately waved his hand, swept up the 15 heaven-defying divine weapons, and left the Black Tortoise realm, descending above a mountain. This was somewhere in the South Continent. Heavenly tribulation? Why would a heavenly tribulation suddenly appear? There were many fierce beasts in the mountains. Seeing the sudden arrival of the heavenly tribulation, they were all shocked, and then quickly looked up at the sky. Isn't that Qin Feiyang? He has been hiding here all this time. The ferocious beasts below widened their eyes, and immediately fled in panic. Even Neptune, the Dragon God, the Monarch, the Divine King, and Jizun dared to provoke him, who wouldn't be afraid of him. But Qin Feiyang ignored them and opened another space-time tunnel, directly descending to the center of the forbidden area, where the gate of the divine kingdom was originally located. The tribulation continued. However, the news of Qin Feiyang's appearance in the South Continent immediately spread like a storm. Why is he undergoing the tribulation again? After receiving the news, the divine king immediately went to the mountain to check. After asking the fierce beasts in the mountain, it turned out that the divine weapons were undergoing the tribulation. This was not a big deal. Because compared to Qin Feiyang's heavenly tribulation, the tribulation of the divine weapons was not worth mentioning. However, when a group of fierce beasts said that they seemed to have seen 15 divine weapons undergoing the tribulation at the same time, the divine king was immediately stunned. 15 divine weapons undergoing the tribulation at the same time? Are you kidding me? This meant that 15 heaven-defying divine weapons had evolved into sovereign divine weapons at the same time. Such a ridiculous thing was unheard of. Chapter 4190. Is there any news about Qin Feiyang? See God Island. In front of a courtyard. Yu Lao walked out of the room and looked at Neptune who was standing outside. At this time, Neptune was no longer as decadent as before. His entire body was exuding a shocking sharpness. Yes. Just now, someone in the southern continent sent news that Qin Feiyang appeared in the southern continent and seemed to be helping 15 divine artifacts to pass the tribulation. Neptune nodded. Yu Lao was shocked and looked at a courtyard not far away, shouting, "Lu Yunfeng, Lu Yuntian, come and gather immediately." However, the inner demons and Lu Jiajin did not appear. What's going on? Yu Lao raised his eyebrows, and his divine sense rolled out and shrouded the courtyard. No one? When did they slip away? Yu Lao looked at Neptune in shock. How would I know? Neptune was dumbfounded. Aren't they with you? If you don't know, how would I, a person who lives thousands of miles away, know? Bastard! You're really worrisome. Yu Lao cursed and looked at Neptune, saying, "Go find the dragon god and go to the southern continent first. I'll send them a message and when they come back, we'll rush over immediately." Okay. Neptune nodded, opened a time passage, and turned to leave. Yu Lao also immediately took out the divine sound transmission stone. However, there was no response to the two of them. What the hell are they doing? Yu Lao was furious to the extreme. He had clearly told them not to run around during this period and to be ready to attack at any time. But now, they couldn't even find a shadow. They didn't even respond to the message. Where is Qin Feiyang? Above the mountains. The dragon god and Neptune descended and looked at the beasts below. I don't know. A group of beasts shook their heads. You don't know? The two of them were full of hostility. I really don't know. As soon as he came out, he opened a space-time tunnel and left with those 15 divine artifacts. The group of ferocious beasts was terrified. That damned little bastard. He must have gone to find a place to undergo his tribulation. Neptune's face sank. He took out the divine sound transmission stone and sent a message to the divine king. The divine king had long since left. For her, what she was most worried about now was Qin Feiyang's safety. Wang. A moment passed. The figure of the divine king appeared. Beside him were the monarch and the supreme being of the human race. Divine king, where is he? The dragon god roared. If you ask me, who should I ask? The divine king raised his eyebrows. The dragon god roared, isn't he in your south continent? Now that he's gone missing, who else should I look for if not you? The divine king was so angry that he laughed and shouted, are you going to look for me if your father is missing? You, the dragon god was furious. It wasn't easy to wait for this little bastard to appear. How could he let him slip away just like that? Dragon god, don't worry. We've already sent people out to search. 15 divine artifacts undergoing tribulation isn't a small matter. No matter where he's hiding, he'll definitely be seen. The monarch comforted. Yeah, it's useless for you to be anxious about this. The supreme being of the human race nodded, then turned to look at the divine king and comforted, don't be angry, the dragon god is also anxious. You know how to be a good person. The divine king glared at him in annoyance. The supreme being of the human race smiled awkwardly. However, this dragon god was really tortured to the point of madness by Qin Feiyang. How could the dragon god be so unreasonable in the past? At this time, Yu Lao finally arrived with the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Both of them were sleepy and yawning. What's going on? Neptune was suspicious. They ran to a nearby island to sleep. Yu Lao was so angry that his beard blew and his eyes widened. When Neptune heard this, he had a helpless look on his face. The dragon god raised his eyebrows and said, can you guys be a little responsible? The inner demons was slightly stunned, glanced at the dragon god, raised his eyebrows and said, are you teaching us how to do things? Those blood-red eyes made the dragon god's heart tremble. Enough. No matter what, the dragon god is also a senior, show some respect. Yu Lao berated. You're also teaching me how to do things? The inner demons looked at Yu Lao. Yu Lao's face was dark, and his veins were bulging. They were really lawless, weren't they? Seeing that the situation wasn't good, Neptune quickly comforted, Brother Lu, don't be angry, everyone is too anxious, so their tempers are a little fiery. Who's your brother? Are you worthy of being my brother? The inner demon sneered, showing no mercy. Neptune's expression suddenly froze, and a trace of anger couldn't help but rise in his eyes. The Divine King and the other two watched this scene through the voice transmission God Stone, and their hearts were also in disbelief. This Lu Yuntian was truly out of his mind. He dared to provoke anyone. In fact, the inner demons did this on purpose. It was to buy some time for Qin Feiyang. Because transcending the tribulation also required some time, as long as the tribulation was over, even if they found Qin Feiyang, Neptune and the others wouldn't be able to stop him. Any news? No, we'll go back first. Lu Jiajin asked. The three major races have already sent people to look for him. Neptune took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in his heart, and said. So you haven't found him yet? Then why did you bring us here? Isn't this a waste of our time? The inner demon snorted through his nose. Don't you know how to help? The dragon god couldn't help but roar. If you want us to look for him, what do you need to do? You can't even catch a mere Qin Feiyang. I really don't know what you, the dragon god, are doing. The inner demons looked at the dragon god with a look of disdain. You, say it again if you have the guts. The dragon god pointed at the inner demons angrily, gritting his teeth. Yo! The inner demons laughed strangely, stepped in front of the dragon god, and laughed, so unconvinced. Let me tell you, if you don't do it today, you're my grandson. Preposterous, the dragon god roared, and his aura rolled out. The ultimate meaning of all the strongest laws instantly appeared in the sky. Courting death. The inner demon's eyes flashed with killing intent. Behind him, the 5 demon kings appeared. Swish! The battle was about to break out, but at this moment, a figure stood between the two, and it was Yu Lao. Yu Lao didn't say anything and just looked at the two of them with a gloomy face. The dragon god looked at the inner demons, then at Yu Lao, and finally loosened his fist. The ultimate meaning in the sky also dissipated. I thought you'd be awesome. Turns out you're just a coward. The inner demons waved his hand, and the 5 demon kings disappeared. Then, he walked to Lu Jiajin's side without looking back, looking at the dragon god with eyes full of disdain. Can you stop talking? Take it as this old man begging you. Yu Lao roared. He was full of helplessness. If it weren't for the fact that these two brothers had heaven-defying means, he wouldn't have been able to count on them to deal with Qin Feiyang. Back then, when the emperor of the Central Dynasty asked him to bring along the inner demons and Lu Jiajin, he was a little unwilling, because he knew in his heart that he couldn't control these two. But if he didn't bring them along, the other 8 geniuses wouldn't be a match for Qin Feiyang and the others at all. For a moment, everyone was silent. The atmosphere on the side of the king and the other two was fine. Anyway, no matter what the inner demons did, it had nothing to do with them, and they couldn't be hurt through the divine voice stone. But the atmosphere here was particularly oppressive. The dragon god's gaze would occasionally glance at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin, with a trace of murderous intent. Time passed quietly. About half an hour passed. Buzz. Suddenly, a buzzing sound was heard. The human race supreme being was stunned and took out the divine voice stone. At that moment, everyone looked at the human race supreme being. The human race supreme being glanced at Yu Lao and the others, and then activated the divine voice stone. A shadow appeared. It was the Great Venerable. What's wrong? The human race supreme being asked. Sir. Someone reported that there was the aura of the heavenly tribulation in the void. The Great Venerable said. The aura of the heavenly tribulation. The gaze of Neptune and the others couldn't help but tremble. Since it was the aura of the heavenly tribulation, it was possible that the 15 divine artifacts were going through the tribulation. Got it. We'll be there right away. Don't come, just guard Mount Supreme. The human race supreme being ordered. Yes. The Great Venerable responded respectfully, and the shadow quickly dissipated. Neptune also immediately turned off the divine voice stone, opened a spacetime tunnel, and rushed in like lightning. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the dragon god, and he followed closely behind. Hurry up and follow. Yu Lao looked at the inner demons and said, and immediately entered the tunnel. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin looked at each other, frowned slightly, and then followed. On the other side. Why is this Great Venerable of your Mount Supreme so insensible? Can't he wait a little longer and send us a message? The Divine King was speechless. He also doesn't know that we've already formed an alliance with Qin Feiyang. The human race supreme being smiled bitterly. Then what do we do now? Qin Feiyang might be in danger. The Divine King asked worriedly. What else can we do? We can only go and take a look. If it really comes to that, then we'll have a showdown. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the king, and he also opened a spacetime tunnel, and walked in with the Divine King. The void was the name of the forbidden area. At this moment, terrifying auras rolled out from the depths of the void. In the mountain range far away, many beasts were watching this scene in shock. Although there was a heavenly tribulation here, and it had been there for a long time, they didn't know that it was Qin Feiyang's 15 divine artifacts that were going through the tribulation. There were also beasts that entered the void, wanting to get closer to take a look. However, the aura of the heavenly tribulation was too terrifying. And the nearby beasts weren't very strong compared to Qin Feiyang and the others, so they couldn't get close at all. 5 more heavenly tribulations, and you can become a real sovereign divine weapon. In the central area, Qin Feiyang looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky and smiled at the 15 divine artifacts. Thank you. The group of divine artifacts was also very relaxed. Because they didn't need to do anything at all, Qin Feiyang helped them block all the heavenly tribulations. They never thought that the tribulation could be so easy. What are you thanking me for? We'll fight side by side in the future. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled. But as soon as his voice fell, he suddenly turned around and looked at the void behind him. 2 sharp lights burst out of his eyes, and he muttered, "They still found us." In the void not far away, 5 figures appeared. Who else could it be but Yu Lao's group of 5? Who is it? The 15 sovereign divine weapons couldn't help but be shocked. They had always been in the land of origin, so they weren't familiar with Neptune and the others. However, the 5 of them could enter the void and even get close to the central area, so their strength was definitely not simple. Chapter 4191. You really know how to hide. Neptune and the dragon god laughed sinisterly. You flatter me. Qin Feiyang responded indifferently. He couldn't panic. There might still be a chance to turn things around. Once he showed any signs of panic, the other party would definitely suppress him with all their strength. Now, there were only 5 heavenly tribulations left for the 15 divine artifacts. As long as he succeeded, everything would be fine. Swish. At this time, the king and the other 2 also arrived behind Yu Lao and the others. Looking at the situation in front of them, the three of them glanced at each other. A bright light flashed through their eyes as they walked to old Yu's side and stared at Qin Feiyang. Their eyes also flickered with a cold light. Monarch, God King, Paragon, Dragon God, and Sea Deity have all arrived. There's also old Yu from the Central Dynasty, Lu Yunfeng, and Lu Yuntian. You guys really think highly of me. Qin Feiyang laughed. Isn't your name Qin Feiyang also well known in the Divine Kingdom? Besides, to be able to make the Divine Kingdom send so many overlords to deal with you, it shows that you are indeed a big shot. Yu Lao sneered. But in his heart, he was in disbelief. Not only did they know his existence, but they also knew the names of Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian. It felt as if they knew everything. I'm just a pawn in the sky cloud realm. What kind of big shot can I be? You, on the other hand, are all famous and influential figures. Now you have come to deal with a small pawn like me. Isn't that beneath your status? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. You're quite sharp-tongued. Yu Lao's eyes flashed with killing intent. You flatter me. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said with a smile, Senior, can you wait for their heavenly tribulations to end before you make a move? Beautiful weather? The group of people was stunned and looked up at the sky. What kind of beautiful weather was this? Who didn't know that the Void Land rarely saw the sun all year round? Without a doubt. He was stalling for time. Crack. Accompanied by the sound of thunder, the 95th heavenly tribulation descended. The terrifying divine might made Yu Lao and the others feel a sense of dread. They had seen a sovereign weapon undergo tribulation before. However, this was the first time he had seen 15 sovereign divine weapons undergoing their tribulations at the same time. There was only one word to describe it: terrifying. Don't waste your time with him. He wants to buy time for those divine artifacts to transcend their tribulations. Neptune said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the dragon god waved his hand, and a stream of origin energy appeared, turning into a 3-foot-long sword that shot towards Qin Feiyang. Why are you guys taking advantage of someone's perilous state? Isn't that a little despicable behavior? The inner demons muttered. The actions of a villain? When the dragon god heard this, he could not help but roll his eyes. Do I still need to be a gentleman with this little bastard? The sword formed by the origin energy slashed towards Qin Feiyang crazily. The void collapsed and the earth cracked. In the blink of an eye, tens of millions of miles were razed to the ground. You want to kill me so badly? Qin Feiyang raised his brows and sneered. I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Inside his body, a stream of origin energy swept out like a startled swan. Looking at this stream of origin energy, Neptune suddenly clenched his fists, his eyes filled with hatred. This was his origin energy. If the various sea gods and hundreds of thousands of core members returned unscathed, it would be worth it. However, everyone, yes. Everyone's ultimate meaning had been snatched away. To put it bluntly, this stream of origin energy was exchanged for a bunch of trash. In the face of such a situation, who wouldn't be angry? Who wouldn't hate it? Therefore, he even had the heart to pull out Qin Feiyang's tendons and bones. Boom! Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the origin energy turned into a long spear, shattering heaven and earth as it furiously charged forward. Clang! The two artifacts formed by the origin energy collided with a deafening metallic sound, and the destructive aura turned into waves of anger, sweeping in all directions. Because these two origin energy were about the same size, their strength was also comparable. What are the two of you still thinking about? Hurry up and do it. Yu Lao glanced at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Taking advantage of others' difficulties is not what a gentleman does. Lu Jiajin shook his head. You, Yu Lao's anger suddenly rose, and he said patiently, "This old man knows that you have principles, but is this the time to talk about principles?" Lu Jiajin was unmoved. Yu Lao sighed helplessly and turned to look at the inner demons. "Don't look at me. His principles are my principles." The inner demons smiled proudly. Yu Lao was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He said angrily, "Why didn't I see you being so principled in the past?" "In the past?" Lu Jiajin was stunned and said indifferently, "Then you have to carefully recall whether we have looted a burning house or taken advantage of others' difficulties in the past." Yu Lao frowned. After thinking about it carefully, it seemed that they really hadn't. Even the inner demons, who were arrogant and ferocious by nature, had never taken advantage of others' difficulties. The Divine King's eyes flashed, and he looked at the two and said, "I say, the two of you, it's good to be principled, but now is obviously not the time to be." "That's right. To deal with such people, we should be unscrupulous. If you are to be principled with them, the ones who will suffer in the end will definitely be us." The Divine King and the Supreme Being of the human race nodded. With them saying so, Yu Lao, the Dragon God, and Neptune would be even less suspicious of them. And when the Divine King and the other two spoke, Neptune also kept persuading them. However, from beginning to end, the inner demons and Lu Jiajin didn't move much, which made Yu Lao and the other two extremely angry. Why did they bring two disobedient people here? Yu Lao stared at Qin Feiyang, his eyes flickering, and shouted, "My lord, the Divine King, the Supreme Being, the Dragon God, Neptune, follow the elders and attack together." Boom! Yu Lao was the first to activate the ultimate mysteries. There were a total of 9 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. Spacetime law, time law, destruction law, devour law, nothingness law, cause and effect law, death law, life law, and light and darkness law. This strength was indeed not simple. One must know that the group of elders in the village only grasped the ultimate mysteries of the 8 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. And Yu Lao, except for the life and death law, had already comprehended all 9 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. "Can't we discuss this further?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "Get lost, who do you think you are? What qualifications do you have to discuss with us?" The Dragon God roared. The long sword formed by the power of origin once again attacked Qin Feiyang. Moreover, the ultimate mysteries were activated. Neptune also attacked at the same time. Both of them had grasped 8 ultimate mysteries. This scene made the Dragon King and the other two couldn't help but frown. 8 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. This was a level stronger than them because they had only grasped 7 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. But this wasn't the main point. The main point was that they were very clear about the talents of Neptune and the Dragon God. It was impossible to surpass them. It must be the inheritance bestowed by the sovereign. This made them feel very unbalanced in their hearts. Although the sovereign had also bestowed them with inheritances, the inheritances given were the ultimate mysteries that they had already comprehended. Since they had already comprehended the ultimate mysteries, they naturally couldn't fuse them anymore and could only give them to others. In the past, they didn't think much about it and thought that the sovereign didn't do it on purpose. But now that they looked back, the sovereign must have done it on purpose to suppress them. The more they thought about it, the angrier they felt. The hostility between their brows also became more and more intense. Yu Lao and the other two also noticed the hostility of the three, but they didn't connect it to themselves. They thought that the hostility of the three was directed at Qin Feiyang. But Qin Feiyang felt the hostility of the three and was well aware of it. He immediately transmitted his voice to the three of you, don't be rash. Unless it's absolutely necessary, don't expose our relationship. Don't worry. Such a small matter can't make us lose our minds. But now, how are you going to solve the problem at hand? The king secretly said. Don't worry about me, just attack. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Okay. The three of them agreed in secret. They also activated their ultimate meaning and charged towards Qin Feiyang. Must you force me to make a move? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light. Boom! The ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death, the ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death, and the 6 ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death instantly appeared. A terrifying will of the heavens erupted. As he waved his hand, the long saber formed by the origin energy attacked the dragon god's origin energy. The ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death and the 6 ultimate mysteries attacked the ultimate mysteries of Yu Lao and the other 4. Accompanied by a loud bang, the 2 ultimate mysteries collided with the 2 ultimate mysteries, erupting with a terrifying aura of destruction. The 2 ultimate mysteries were still evenly matched. But the ultimate mysteries, Qin Feiyang obtained a crushing victory. Because the 6 ultimate mysteries could each fight 1 against 6. The ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death were more powerful than the 6 ultimate mysteries. With the same level of heavenly will, the ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death could compete with the 12 ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death. The king, the divine king, Zhizun, Yu Lao, Neptune, and the dragon god, the 5 of them added together only had 39 ultimate mysteries. So, they couldn't stop the current Qin Feiyang at all. Of course. The king and the other 2 did not show their true strength. The God race imprint, the 3,000 incarnations, the sword of faith, if they took out all these means, Qin Feiyang could only be beaten up. After all, his 3,000 incarnations still had to help him pass the tribulation. But even so, Elder Yu was still dumbstruck from watching. This is the will of heavenly will of this boy. He had long heard that Qin Feiyang had integrated 2 will of heavenly will and had the strength to crush Neptune and the others. At first, he didn't think much of it, but now that he saw it, it was indeed worthy of the reputation. If it was a one-on-one fight, among the 6 of them, none would be a match for this boy. Divine King, King, Zhizun, stop hiding your trump cards. A trace of blood dripped from the corner of Neptune's mouth as he looked at the king and the other 2 and roared. The 3 of them looked at each other. Bang! 3,000 incarnations appeared. The God race imprint was activated. Accompanied by a loud bang, the sword of faith also appeared out of thin air. When these 3 major means appeared, Qin Feiyang's eyes also showed a trace of seriousness. He was also extremely helpless in his heart. Why would there be such a big commotion and storm every time he passed the tribulation? Couldn't they let him relax a little? Chapter 4192. The first time, when he comprehended the law of life and death, the king, Heavenly Lord Ji, the divine king, and the supremes of the human race personally went to the sky cloud realm and almost wiped them out. The second time. Because of the arrival of the second will of the heavens, the situation he faced in the divine kingdom was even more dangerous because he had to face the encirclement of the 5 major races. Although he succeeded in the end, the Black Tortoise realm was also destroyed. The third time, which was this time. Not only did he have to face the 5 giants, but he also had to face Yu Lao from the central dynasty. Fortunately, the inner demons and Lu Jiajin didn't make a move, otherwise, the situation would be even more dangerous. Crack! At this moment, the 97th heavenly tribulation descended. Qin Feiyang, get ready! The divine king shouted. 7 ultimate intents appeared, and under the support of the God race's mark, the divine power they emitted was several times more terrifying than before. The king's 3,000 incarnations also activated their ultimate intents. There were a total of 21,000. The sword of faith also emitted a sharp light that could destroy the world. Any one of the trump cards was enough to defy the heavens. Not to mention now, 3 trump cards were coming at the same time. At this moment, without the 3,000 incarnations, there was no way to deal with it. Boom! As expected. Facing the strongest means of the king and the other 2, Qin Feiyang couldn't block it with his own strength. Whether it was the ultimate intents of the law of life and death or the 6 ultimate intents, they all collapsed. Poof! A mouthful of purple gold dragon blood spurted out. It would be great if this kid could submit to the purple gold divine dragon clan. The king sighed. If we could really subdue him, he would be the divine kingdom's lucky star. But unfortunately, Yu Lao shook his head regretfully, and murderous intent surged in his eyes as he shouted, "Let's end this quickly, don't give him a chance to breathe." The king and the other 2 waved their hands, and the sword of faith and the ultimate intents that filled the sky immediately turned into a torrent, drowning the sky as it roared toward Qin Feiyang. A deadly sense of danger swept across the place. That's right. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang patted his head. How could he forget about the fiend ancestor? This guy also had 3,000 incarnations and had fused 1 or 2 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. Even though he couldn't participate in the battle yet, it wouldn't be a problem for him to help 15 heaven-defying divine artifacts transcend the tribulation. However, in that case, it was equivalent to exposing the fiend ancestor's strength in advance. He wanted to use the fiend ancestor's 3,000 avatars as a trump card. Once he grasped the will of the heavenly Tao, he would be able to catch Neptune and company off guard. At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Qin Feiyang's mind. In the end, he gritted his teeth. White-eyed wolf, lunatic, Long Qin, and blazing magic sword appeared. I'll go. Looking at the sword of faith and the tens of thousands of ultimate mysteries charging toward them, all of their expressions changed drastically. Senior brother, white-eyed wolf, little Qin, magic sword, help me transcend the tribulation. 3,000 clones, kill the enemy with me. Qin Feiyang spoke. He took a step forward, and his aura rolled out in all directions. The 3,000 clones that were helping to transcend the tribulation also immediately rushed behind Qin Feiyang. Help to transcend the tribulation? Lunatic and the other 2 were stunned. They raised their heads to look at the heavenly tribulation, and their faces couldn't help but turn pale. With their strength, how could they withstand such a terrifying heavenly tribulation? We just need to drag it out, Qin Feiyang said without turning his head. As long as they defeated the king, the divine king, and the human race's supremacy, the 3 of them would be able to deal with Yu Lao, Neptune, and the dragon god. All right. Lunatic nodded. Boom. 6 ultimate mysteries appeared, and the will of the heavenly Tao erupted. What? He also grasped the will of the heavenly Tao so quickly? Neptune and the dragon god's expressions changed drastically. Wasn't this a little too fast? Even if these people deprived Sky Rock, the various sea gods, and hundreds of thousands of core members of the Sea Clan of their ultimate mysteries, it was impossible for Lunatic to integrate these ultimate mysteries so quickly. There was only one explanation: Lunatic had an inheritance before. But didn't they say that the Sky Cloud realm didn't even have a law miniature? How could there be an inheritance of the strongest law ultimate mysteries? What the hell was going on? Only the king and the other 2 knew the reason. But they definitely wouldn't say it out loud. In the blink of an eye. With the release of the 3,000 clones, Qin Feiyang's strength undoubtedly skyrocketed. Boom! There was no time to waste. The ultimate mysteries and the will of the heavenly Tao were instantly unleashed. This place was suddenly shrouded in a terrifying aura. At this moment, whether it was Yu Lao, Neptune, or the dragon god, they couldn't help but fall into the abyss of despair. This was Qin Feiyang's true combat strength. Once the 3,000 clones attacked, who could compete? Even the king's 3,000 clones, the divine king's god race imprint, and the human race's sword of faith were as small as ants at this moment. Because, whether it was the kingdom of life and death or the two wills of the heavenly Tao, they were all means that they couldn't match. Rumble, accompanied by a series of earth-shaking loud noises, the sword of faith, the divine king, and the king's ultimate mysteries were all crushed into pieces. Not good. The three of them had a change of expression. To be honest, Qin Feiyang's current strength was terrifying even to them. Back then in the sky cloud realm, although Qin Feiyang had comprehended the ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death, the other strongest ultimate mysteries were only the law of cause and effect, the law of death, and the law of life. But now, the ultimate mysteries of the strongest ultimate mysteries had already reached 6. The most important thing was, he had also mastered 2 wills of the heavenly Tao. 2 wills of the heavenly Tao, this was a goal that they would never be able to catch up to. Most likely now, with just the strength of Qin Feiyang alone, it was enough to destroy their 3 major races. It was simply ridiculously strong. Originally, the king and the other 2 could have avoided it. But they knew that if they avoided it now, they would have to attack Qin Feiyang later. They didn't want to attack in the first place. Wasn't this the same as fighting their own people? So, they simply pretended to be in a panic and couldn't avoid it in time and were directly attacked. Their bodies were shattered on the spot. Even more than half of their souls were shattered. Hurry and save them. Seeing that the 3 were in danger, Yu Lao hurriedly looked at the dragon god and roared. The dragon god was somewhat reluctant. It would be best if these 3 died. However, due to the fact that in front of Yu Lao, he didn't dare to have any thoughts. As he waved his hand, the long sword that was formed by origin energy shook off Qin Feiyang's origin energy with a clanging sound. Then, it shot toward the monarch and the other 2's remnant souls at lightning speed and protected them. Quick! At the same time, Frenzy's anxious roar sounded. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look, and his face immediately changed. At this moment, the white-eyed wolf, Frenzy, Long Qin, and the blazing magic sword were also facing the threat of death head-on. The heavenly tribulation of 15 divine artifacts was really not something they could withstand. Even Long Qin had already taken out the angel sword, but its effect was minimal. The terrifying power of thunder swept in all directions. The Frenzy and the other 2's ultimate mysteries were shattered on the spot like rotten wood. The angel sword and the blazing magic sword, as intermediate dominator divine weapons, were also shattered. Seeing that they were about to be drowned by the heavenly tribulation, Qin Feiyang hurriedly looked at the 3,000 incarnations and shouted, "Hurry and help." The 3,000 incarnations immediately turned around, activated their ultimate mysteries, and rushed over. But they were still a step too late. The Frenzy and the other 2 were drowned by the heavenly tribulation, and their bodies were instantly shattered. The 2 intermediate dominator divine weapons were also completely disintegrated and torn apart. But fortunately, when the 3,000 incarnations arrived, they hadn't been destroyed yet. They immediately protected the 3's remnant souls, the broken angel sword and the blazing magic sword. At the same time, Yu Lao looked at the remnant souls of the king and the other 2 and said in a deep voice, "Are you guys okay?" "We're fine. But now, we have lost our fighting strength. Next, we can only rely on you guys." One had to admit that the king and the other 2 were experts in acting. There were no flaws at all. "Don't worry. We will take revenge for you guys later." Yu Lao comforted them and looked up at Qin Feiyang. He glanced at the remnant souls of the Frenzy and the other 2 and sneered, "Although you have severely injured the king and the other 2, your companions have also lost their fighting strength." Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked with a smile, "And then? Let's see how you will face our anger alone." Yu Lao laughed. Qin Feiyang looked at them one by one and shook his head. Without the divine king, and the human race's supremes, do you think the few of you are worthy of being my opponents? Arrogant enough. The inner demons laughed. Qin Feiyang looked up and said playfully, I heard that you are also very arrogant. As soon as you came out of the Central Dynasty, you went to Mount Supreme and the Heavenly Island and defeated the elites of the three races. Do those trash deserve to be called elites? The inner demons didn't care. We have the same opinion on this. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. As he waved his hand, the remnant souls of the three and the two divine weapons disappeared without a trace. Why are you talking so much nonsense with him? Hurry up and kill him. Yu Lao roared. What's the hurry? There's only one heavenly tribulation left. The inner demons glanced at him and said. Elder Yu blew his beard and glared. Did they really have to wait until the other party finished the heavenly tribulation? It was indeed a good thing to be moral, but couldn't they consider the situation? Crack. Boom. The 99th heavenly tribulation finally arrived. Everyone knew. The power of the last heavenly tribulation was the sum of the previous 98. Now, the last heavenly tribulation of the 15 divine weapons arrived at the same time. What kind of scene was this? Although it wasn't as powerful as Qin Feiyang's heavenly tribulation, its power made Qin Feiyang, Yu Lao, and the others feel the danger of death. The dragon god hurriedly waved his hand, and his origin power turned into a shield in front of him. He was afraid that he would be affected. The 3,000 incarnations didn't dare to be careless. Tens of thousands of ultimate intents rose into the air and formed a thick shield wall above the 15 divine weapons. Boom! The 15 heavenly tribulation descended. More than half of the ultimate intents were shattered on the spot. This was the power of 15 heavenly tribulation. It couldn't be described as terrifying. The surging aura swept in all directions. Seeing the ultimate intents being shattered, the 15 divine weapons couldn't help but feel nervous. So many ultimate intents. Don't be unable to block it. And now, they were only one step away from successfully evolving into divine weapons. Don't fail at the last step. Finally, the 15 heavenly tribulation gradually dissipated. The tribulation clouds also quickly retreated and were replaced by golden auspicious clouds. The 15 divine weapons were bathed in golden light and shouted excitedly. Chapter 4193. Among these divine artifacts, other than the axe and the white phoenix divine sword, the other divine artifacts had chosen to follow Qin Feiyang in the past so that they could evolve into sovereign divine artifacts. Now that they had finally succeeded, how could they not be excited? As for the axe, the white phoenix divine sword. The axe was Fire Lotus's divine weapon. The white phoenix divine sword was also Fire Lotus's divine weapon. Elder Hua had given it to her for self-defense. Therefore, both of them had to be treated differently. It's finally over. Qin Feiyang's lips curled into a smile. He had to thank the inner demons and big cousin for this. If they hadn't shown mercy, it would have been even harder for these divine weapons to successfully pass the tribulation. Because if the two of them attacked, he would have to fight with all his strength. As for the demon ancestor, although he had 3,000 clones, he probably wouldn't be able to block the last tribulation of the 15 divine weapons. Clang! Boom! After the final baptism, all 15 divine weapons successfully evolved. Qin Feiyang, we're here to help you. How dare you provoke us? You're courting death. Yes, yes, yes. Chop these old bastards into pieces and feed them to the dogs. Immediately. They rushed to Qin Feiyang's side and yelled. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. These divine weapons were too arrogant. Did they think that they could fight against people of this level just because they had evolved into sovereign weapons? What a joke. With their current strength, they could at most fight against those without the will of the heavens. Experts like Yu Lao, Neptune, and the dragon god could destroy them with a wave of their hand. To fight against experts with the will of the heavens, they needed high-grade sovereign weapons. Mid-grade sovereign weapons were far from enough. Mid-grade sovereign weapons were only equivalent to 10 low-grade sovereign weapons. And an expert with the will of the heavens would have at least 6 ultimate laws. Coupled with the amplification of the will of the heavens, they would have surpassed the limit of mid-grade sovereign weapons. In short, a low-level sovereign weapon could sweep through anyone who didn't have an ultimate profundity. A mid-level dominator divine weapon could sweep through anyone who hadn't grasped the will of the heavenly Tao. A high-grade sovereign weapon could sweep through anyone who controlled the will of the heavenly Tao. Of course, even a high-grade sovereign weapon wouldn't be enough to deal with the 3,000 incarnations, the Demon King True Body, and the Sword of Faith. However, the insults directed at Yu Lao, Neptune, and the Dragon God sounded pretty good. Then, he looked at Yu Lao and the other two. His face was dark, and his veins were bulging. How dare a mere dozen or so low-level dominator weapons challenge them? Yu Lao turned to look at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Can you make your move now? The two of them looked at each other and stepped forward. Kill them. No. Don't kill them. Let them live. I want to torture them and let them have a taste of living a life worse than death. Yu Lao's eyes were filled with hatred. Ever since he came to the 4 great continents, he had been played around by Qin Feiyang. This was not only a humiliation to him, but also a trampling on his dignity. So in his heart, he hated Qin Feiyang to the bone. Even Yu Lao was like this, let alone the Dragon God and Neptune. On the other hand, the Divine King and the other two were quite worried. You dare to challenge Qin Feiyang with merely the two of you who don't know life from death? The 15 dominator weapons became arrogant again. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin were stunned. Qin Feiyang also looked at them strangely. Even the inner demons and big cousin dared to fight? Dare I ask, where did you borrow the courage of a leopard? They were really arrogant to the point of no return. All right. Let's teach these guys a lesson they will remember. Qin Feiyang said, they are just 2 young people. They are definitely not that strong. Go and help me kill them. No problem. The dominator weapons responded and immediately charged toward the inner demons and Lu Jiajin arrogantly. Interesting. The inner demons' lips curled up slightly. Boom! The 6 supreme laws appeared, and the will of the great path erupted. What the hell? The dominator weapons were shocked. This was called not that strong? While they were stunned, the 6 supreme laws had already arrived in front of them. They could only brace themselves and fully recover in an instant. Divine power roared in all directions. Needless to say, the combined power of 15 dominator weapons was indeed a little scary. Back in the sky cloud realm, even the dragons, the Feng people, and the Kirans only had 10 dominator weapons at most. If it had been back then, 15 dominator weapons would have been enough to kill gods. But now, in the face of the inner demon's 6 supreme laws, the 15 dominator weapons were like defeated soldiers, unable to withstand a single blow. With a loud crack, cracks appeared on his body, and in the next moment, he was torn into pieces. So strong? A group of dominator weapons ran to Qin Feiyang's side as if they were running for their lives. They had been in seclusion in the land of origin, so they were still unfamiliar with the will of the Great Path. This led them to think that even if the other party had mastered 6 supreme laws, they could still fight. After all, they had an absolute advantage in terms of numbers. Little did they know. The divine power of the will of the Great Path could increase the power of an ultimate law by 6 times. In other words, with the support of the will of the Great Path, no matter what ultimate law it was, it could fight against 6 at once. Are you still so arrogant? Qin Feiyang's face was full of ridicule. The 7 Stars staff was stunned for a moment, then immediately reacted and said angrily, "Bastard, you are doing this on purpose." The other Dominator weapons were also complaining. "I am taking this opportunity to teach you all a lesson. Our opponents now have long surpassed our enemies in the ancient world and Sky Cloud realm. Low-level Dominator weapons like you can't participate in our battle at all, so don't be arrogant and continue to work hard. As long as you all evolve into high-level Dominator weapons, you will be truly invincible." Qin Feiyang said. "Enemies that have long surpassed the ancient world and Sky Cloud realm, then wouldn't it be meaningless for us to work so hard for so many years to evolve into low-level Dominator weapons?" The Dominator weapons were stunned. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. It seemed that the hearts of these Dominator weapons had been hit. He comforted them. How can it be meaningless? If you don't evolve into low-level Dominator weapons first, how can you evolve into mid-level and high-level Dominator weapons? That's true. The 7 Stars staff muttered. Food must be eaten one bite at a time, and the road must be taken one step at a time. Don't be in a hurry. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. All right. You 2 little bastards, don't be in a hurry to be proud. Wait until we evolve into high-level Dominator weapons, then we will settle the score with you. The 7 Stars staff roared at the inner demons. The inner demon's mouth twitched. Why were the Dominator weapons around Qin Feiyang like this? They looked like they deserved a beating. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. Settle the score with the inner demons? Let alone evolving into high-level Dominator weapons, even if they evolved to peak level, they would still be no match for the inner demons. He hurriedly waved his hand and sent the group of Dominator weapons back to the Black Tortoise realm, so that they wouldn't continue to embarrass themselves outside. Lu Jiajin looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled faintly. You have been waiting for this moment for a long time. You should be the same. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and withdrew the origin energy that was floating at the side. Yes. Ever since we heard about you, we have been looking forward to meeting you. Lu Jiajin nodded. Why are you still chatting? Neptune frowned. Don't worry about them, as long as they can fight. Yu Lao waved his hand. They didn't hear the hidden meaning in this conversation. In the eyes of Yu Lao, Neptune, and the Dragon God, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 had been looking forward to this battle for a long time. But in reality, the 3 of them were looking forward to meeting again after being separated for many years. Lu Jiajin glanced at Yu Lao and the other 2, then looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled faintly. Some people are already impatient. Let's start quickly, don't let me down. This was the expectation of a big brother to his younger brother. Don't worry. I definitely won't let you down. Qin Feiyang took a step forward and threw a punch at Lu Jiajin. You should defeat me first. Because the person who is looking forward to fighting with you the most is me. The inner demons laughed and stepped forward, blocking in front of Lu Jiajin and punching Qin Feiyang. Boom! The 2 fists collided with a loud bang. A terrifying wave of air immediately rolled out in all directions with the 2 of them as the center. Lu Jiajin smiled helplessly and could only retreat to the side. Indeed. After so many years, as Qin Feiyang's inner demons, they definitely wanted to be the first to experience the strength of the original body. But now, was the inner demon stronger? Or was Qin Feiyang's original body stronger? It was really exciting. At the same time, Black Tortoise Realm. The Frenzied One, the White-Eyed Wolf, and Longqin's bodies had all been reconstructed. Of course, this was all thanks to the Mermaid Princess. Without the Eye of Life, even with the Law of Life, it would take a long time. The 7-star staff has already come in, why hasn't old Qin come in yet? Could it be that he is fighting with the inner demons and Lu Jiajin outside? The frenzied one was surprised. It's possible. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Next to him, the mermaid princess was also there. Hearing this, a trace of worry appeared on her face. The frenzied one rolled his eyes and said, "Such a wonderful battle, we definitely can't miss it." This was the first time he saw the inner demons and Lu Jiajin with his own eyes. So he was very curious about the strength of the two. Nonsense. How can we miss their battle? Fire Lotus, come here quickly. The white-eyed wolf roared. They are killing each other, shouldn't you be worried? Why are you all so excited? Long Qin looked at the two in shock. You're heartless. Worried about them? Come on, don't worry about this, they know their limits better than anyone. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand. Swish. Before his voice died away, the Fire Lotus appeared in the yard and asked suspiciously, "What's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry?" The white-eyed wolf chuckled and said, "Nothing serious, I just want to watch the battle between little Qin Zi and the inner demons and big cousin." They are fighting? The Fire Lotus was stunned and quickly waved her hand. The void in front of her was distorted, and the scene outside slowly emerged. They are indeed fighting. Looking at the scene where Qin Feiyang and the inner demons were in a deadlock with their fists colliding, the white-eyed wolf and the frenzied one's eyes lit up. They immediately brought a few chairs and each took out a pot of wine, drinking while watching the battle. This scene made the mermaid princess, the Fire Lotus, and the Long Qin quite speechless. If Qin Feiyang saw their current posture, he would definitely say that they were careless friends. Moreover, with the white-eyed wolf's previous shout, the other people in the Devil's Land also thought that something big had happened, so they all rushed over one after another. The inner demons, Long Chen looked at the two in the picture, his eyes flashing slightly, and said with a smile, "Qin, make me a pot of tea, I want to have a good look." What? Long Qin's face stiffened. Someone even more outrageous came? The point was that this person was her brother. Chapter 4194. Land of Nothingness. The wind howled, and a terrifying aura enveloped all directions. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons stood high in the sky, their clothes and long hair fluttering in the wind. Two fists collided, and invisible forces kept colliding, erupting with monstrous power. Your physical body and strength are not bad. The inner demons laughed. Same to you. The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth also lifted into a smile. As their voices fell, the two withdrew their fists at the same time and attacked each other again. Whether it was their battle awareness or means, they were not inferior to each other at all. A fierce battle was about to unfold. Their figures intertwined as fast as lightning, and it was almost impossible to see their figures. The sound of collision was deafening. Gradually, the two killed their way out of the land of nothingness. Wherever they went, divine power roared, and the sky fell and the earth cracked. Don't hurt the innocent. Yu Lao and the others had been following Qin Feiyang and the inner demons. Seeing this scene, the human race's supremacy immediately shouted anxiously. With the combat strength of these two, once they killed their way into the nearby cities, there would be a scene of blood flowing like a river. As the human race's supremacy, of course, he could not bear to see this happen. His voice was like a bell, and when it fell into the ears of Qin Feiyang and the inner demons, it gave them a fright. They did not realize that they had already killed their way out of the land of nothingness. Looking at the frantically fleeing beasts in the distance, the two looked at each other and decisively soared into the sky, killing their way up into the sky and into the galaxy. A terrifying aura immediately spread out in the Milky Way. The starry sky trembled. The stars in the distance swayed like leaves in the wind. The Milky Way that stretched as far as the eye could see was undoubtedly the best battlefield. Even if they fought until the sky turned dark, they would not hurt the innocent. The commotion was very big. Not long after, people from all the major races heard the news and rushed over, all wanting to enter the galaxy to watch the battle. But the entrance to the galaxy was sealed by Lu Jiajin, and no one could break in. Even the supremacies and beast gods could only stand outside the galaxy. However, even if the entrance to the galaxy was sealed, everyone could still feel the terrifying battle fluctuations. Many of them felt a sense of dread from the bottom of their hearts. What kind of monsters were these young people? His strength and means were even more frightening than those of the older generation. Within the galaxy, Qin Feiyang and the inner demons had already entered the depths of the Milky Way. The clash of power and divine power caused the starry sky to collapse violently, as if it was the end of the world. Both of them had injuries of varying degrees on their bodies and were dripping with blood. Qin Feiyang's blood was purple-gold dragon blood. The blood of the inner demons was no different from that of an ordinary person, but it contained a shocking murderous aura. Every drop of blood had the power to crush mountains and rivers. However, even though their injuries continued to worsen, their fighting spirit continued to soar. How many years had passed since they parted? They couldn't even remember, but their longing for each other had never changed. In the eyes of outsiders, this battle was a battle of life and death. Only they knew the true meaning of this battle. Are you done warming up? It's time to get serious. The inner demons laughed sinisterly. I've already warmed up. Aren't I taking care of you? Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered with cold light. Sure enough, you're crazy to the extreme. But unfortunately, this time you've met someone who is even crazier than you. The inner demons looked up to the sky and roared. The ultimate mysteries of the various ultimate laws appeared. A total of 6. The will of heavenly Tao shook all directions. Even if you're crazy, you still need to have the capital. Qin Feiyang took a step forward. The ultimate mysteries of the 6 ultimate laws instantly appeared in the sky, carrying the power to destroy heaven and earth as they charged forward. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, the 12 ultimate mysteries collided together and erupted with a terrifying destructive force. Is that all? Qin Feiyang's eyes were like torches, revealing his sharpness. Right now, he had only activated one will of heavenly Tao. If both wills of heavenly Tao were activated, even the inner demons would be crushed. The inner demons laughed wildly. He had long known about Qin Feiyang's strength. However, even if Qin Feiyang had mastered 3,000 incarnations and the ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death, he still had enough confidence. As for the Eye of Heaven, in a one-on-one battle, it wouldn't play much of a role at all. Because the Eye of Heaven had to replicate the ultimate mysteries of heavenly Tao, the speed was quite slow. During the replication period, as long as one had powerful means, one could forcefully interrupt it. Therefore, in the eyes of the inner demons, Qin Feiyang's means were only the will of heavenly Tao, the law of life and death, and the 3,000 incarnations. You're laughing quite happily, Qin Feiyang murmured. This guy, what other means was he hiding? No longer holding back. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the ultimate mysteries of the 6 ultimate laws roared out again. The will of heavenly Tao erupted in full force. The current will of heavenly Tao was many times stronger than before. The starry river within a radius of tens of millions of miles shattered like a mirror and collapsed. Monstrous divine power rolled out. 2 wills of heavenly Tao is indeed scary, but, the corners of the inner demon's mouth raised. Boom! In the next moment, the ultimate profundities of his 6 supreme laws appeared, and a will of the great path roared out. What? Qin Feiyang's expression changed. The divine king, the monarch, the human race's sovereign, the dragon god, and Neptune also widened their eyes in disbelief. This person's will of heavenly Tao was also several times stronger than before. It was completely on par with Qin Feiyang's current will of heavenly Tao. How is this possible? Could it be that the inner demons have also comprehended the ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death? Black Tortoise World. Frenzy, White-Eyed Wolf, Dong Zhengyang, and the others also looked at the inner demons in surprise. Because only by comprehending the ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death could one master the second will of heavenly Tao. Outside. Boom! Accompanied by an earth-shattering explosion, the ultimate mysteries of the 12 ultimate laws collided again, and a destructive aura swept out in all directions. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons trembled and flew out at the same time, blood gushing out from the corners of their mouths. Yu Lao, he, Neptune and the dragon god looked at Yu Lao in surprise. Just watch carefully. Yu Lao sneered. Qin Feiyang was very outstanding, no one could deny this. But he was a monstrous genius of the Central Dynasty, Lu Yuntian, who was not inferior to Qin Feiyang. So strong, Qin Feiyang stabilized his body and looked at the inner demons in shock. Very surprised, right? Yes. In this world, you're not the only one who can comprehend the ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death. The inner demons took a step forward and forcibly stabilized his body. A surge of life and death force roared out, and the ultimate mysteries of life and death instantly appeared in the sky, exuding a destructive aura. This, Qin Feiyang looked at this scene in a daze. Life and Death Kingdom, he really did not expect that the inner demons could also comprehend the ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death. Ha! Suddenly, Qin Feiyang laughed out loud. Indeed worthy of being his inner demons. If it was someone else, he would definitely not be happy because the law of life and death not only represented strength, but also a supreme glory and recognition of talent and comprehension. But the inner demons were different. The inner demons were born because of him. The inner demons and him were the same person. They were inseparable from each other. This was sharing honor and disgrace. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang was stunned. This guy, could it be that he shared the ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death? Because in the past, whether it was the 3,000 incarnations, the divine arts, or the battle souls, he and the inner demons could share them. Don't think too much. The inner demon snickered. Although this sentence was very vague, those who were familiar with them could understand it. There was no sharing. This was comprehended by the inner demons themselves. All right. I want to see how strong you are. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the kingdom of life and death also opened. A life and death battle began again. This time, it was a confrontation of ultimate mysteries. I finally understand why he was able to easily shatter the spirit formation set up by the various exalted on Mount Supreme. The human race supreme murmured. It's too terrifying. Who would have thought that our divine kingdom would also give birth to such a monstrous young man? The divine king and the monarch also had a look of fear. Thinking back to the last confrontation on the mythical island, they couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. If it wasn't for Yu Lao's appearance at the critical moment, both of them would have died in the hands of this person. This isn't good. Qin Feiyang's several strongest methods, the 3,000 incarnations, the law of life and death, and the will of the heavenly Tao are no longer advantageous. I'm afraid the future situation will be very unfavorable for us. The human race supreme transmitted his voice. Don't panic. Since we have already made a choice, then we have to believe in this brat. The monarch secretly said. To be honest, he was also a little nervous. However, as the first person to ally with Qin Feiyang, he couldn't show it. Moreover, at that time, they had already made a blood oath. Even if the future was bleak, they had to muster up the courage to go on. In fact, they didn't know that their worries were completely unnecessary. No matter how strong the inner demons and Lu Jiajin were, they were no threat to them. Because they were all on the same side. On the contrary. Because the inner demons and Lu Jiajin were strong, they had an advantage. Of course. This required Qin Feiyang to tell them the identity of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. The battle was getting more and more intense. In fact, the two had already activated the 3,000 incarnations and the Demon King real body. Qin Feiyang also finally saw the Demon King real body with his own eyes, and it was indeed not the 3,000 incarnations. However, thinking back, the inner demons knew the 3,000 incarnations very well. Using the 3,000 incarnations as a reference, creating the Demon King real body, thinking about it, it didn't seem difficult. Cough cough. Thinking of this, even he couldn't help but blush. Not difficult? If it wasn't difficult, why didn't he create a killing technique like the Demon King real body all these years? The law of life and death, the 6 strongest laws, the will of the heavenly Tao, and the 3,000 incarnations, Qin Feiyang could be said to have gone all out. If it were the monarch, he would have probably fallen under the hands of Qin Feiyang. But facing the inner demons, instead, a sense of powerlessness rose in his heart. This guy was really too strong. His strength was completely on par with his. If they continued to fight like this, it would definitely be a situation where both sides would suffer. If Big Cousin intervened again, then he would still lose. Chapter 4195. Did you see that? As long as they're willing to help, Qin Feiyang will definitely die. Yu Lao smiled proudly. Yes, yes, yes. Neptune and the other two nodded. So this was Lu Yuntian's true strength. It was indeed terrifying. Following that, the two looked at Qin Feiyang and sneered, did you see that? My divine kingdom also has a monster that is no worse than you. This is the foundation of my divine kingdom. No matter how hard your sky cloud realm works, you will never be able to catch up. But for this. Qin Feiyang just smiled faintly. Ignorant people were really terrifying. But then again, what kind of difficulties did the inner demons and Big Cousin have that they wouldn't even give him a chance to communicate secretly? You dare to be distracted in a battle with me? Looking at the worried Qin Feiyang, the inner demons frowned and took the opportunity to slap Qin Feiyang's chest. Qin Feiyang suddenly came back to his senses, but it was already too late. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew deeper into the Star River like a meteorite. The inner demon's murderous aura was monstrous. The 3,000 Demon King true bodies were all tens of thousands of feet tall. They were like gods from hell as they charged towards Qin Feiyang. They were really ruthless. Seeing this scene, the Black Tortoise Realm's madman and the others couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. In the nick of time, the 3,000 incarnations rushed over and activated their ultimate mysteries. The white-eyed wolf breathed a sigh of relief and said, this bastard inner demons is still the same as before. If it weren't for our relationship, would have gone out now and taken away his law of life and death. Let's see if he can still be so arrogant. The madman and the others couldn't help but laugh when they heard this. Although the white-eyed wolf spoke so fiercely, he actually cared about the inner demons very much. Outside, Yu Lao and the others who were watching the battle were more and more shocked. The battle that was originally between two people had now become a chaotic battle between 6,000 people. The most important thing was, these 6,000 people all grasped the laws of life and death, the ultimate profundities of the 6 supreme laws, and the will of the heavenly Tao. At this moment, They finally had a comprehensive understanding of the strength of Qin Feiyang and the inner demons. With such people and such means, who would be able to fight them? Just like them. In the face of Qin Feiyang and the inner demons, they could only be killed in an instant. This was because once the 3,000 incarnations and the Demon King true body were activated, they would be surrounded and beaten up. No matter how strong you are, there's no way you can fight against 3,000 Qin Feiyang, 3,000 inner demons. Qin Feiyang finally recovered. He went all out and attacked the inner demons. This time, he showed no mercy. The battle between the two was undoubtedly even more intense. Blood rained down and dyed the surroundings red. Ha! Watching you fight with your life on the line is really a pleasure. The inner demons laughed. Aren't you the same? After so many years, they finally met. Both of them were happy from the bottom of their hearts. Because this friendship between them was really hard to come by. Scenes of the past involuntarily appeared in their minds. Back then, when the inner demons were just born, Qin Feiyang tried all means to strangle the inner demons. The inner demons also used all means to erase Qin Feiyang's consciousness and replace him. For this, they hated each other and viewed each other as enemies. And they repeatedly confronted each other in their inner worlds. But as time passed, they slowly began to rely on each other and trust each other. Later, when Qin Feiyang became a god, he was shackled and restrained, and the inner demons even wanted to dissipate on their own. It was the same as Long Chen's ice dragon soul. Because if the inner demons didn't disappear, Qin Feiyang couldn't become a god. But in the end, Qin Feiyang relied on his strong will to go against the heavens and successfully stepped into the path of becoming a god. At this time, the friendship between the two was irreplaceable. Later, when they fought with the demon ancestor and Mu Tianyang, no matter how dangerous it was, the two never gave up on each other. They walked side by side and fought to the death. Even in the end, the inner demons also wanted to replace Qin Feiyang to open the gate of rebirth and save the world. Although they were stopped by Qin Feiyang in the end, in order to save Qin Feiyang, the inner demons stepped into the miracle without hesitation to find their common enemy, Ice Dragon. The inner demon's sacrifice for Qin Feiyang this time was not something an ordinary person could do. In this world, as long as there were benefits, the other party would help you. But if there were no benefits, who would know you? The friendship between them was higher than the sky and deeper than the sea. So both of them were enjoying this moment. However, the others were watching with trepidation. Killing the other party by any means. If they were careless, they might be smashed to pieces. What a tough guy. But we can share everything. Why don't we strike first? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He was ready to share the inner demon's Demon King true body. However, in the next moment, he was dumbfounded. He couldn't share the inner demon's Demon King true body. He tried again and shared the heart demon's nomological profundities. But it didn't work. The invisible connection between them in the past seemed to have been cut off. What was going on? The inner demons seemed to have seen through Qin Feiyang's plan. They grinned and said, "Don't make any more useless efforts. Surrender as soon as possible." When the others heard this, they thought they were persuading Qin Feiyang to give up resisting. But Qin Feiyang knew that the inner demons were hinting that they could no longer share each other's laws and methods. This made Qin Feiyang extremely confused. They could before, so why not now? But he didn't dare to ask. Because now, no matter what the inner demons said, they were extremely vague. Obviously, they were guarding against something. In this case, if he wanted to defeat the inner demons, he could only find an opportunity to open the eye of heaven. That's right. The inner demons were very strong. If they could share everything like before, then they wouldn't be able to tell who was better. Because whether it was strength or methods, they were the same. But now, in the face of the situation where they couldn't share, the inner demons were no match for him. Because he still had the eye of heaven. If they couldn't share, the inner demons couldn't open the eye of heaven. Then, Qin Feiyang's advantage would naturally be revealed. Senior brother, little Qin, white-eyed wolf, open the ultimate mysteries. With that thought, Qin Feiyang decisively sent a message to the white-eyed wolf and the other two. This battle had been going on for a long time. It was time to end it. The white-eyed wolf and the other two were stunned when they heard this. They jokingly said, "Wouldn't it be a little unfair for you to do this? Then are we really going to fight until both sides suffer? In the end, people like Neptune and the dragon god will take advantage of it?" Qin Feiyang secretly thought. That makes sense. The white-eyed wolf nodded. If they continued to fight like this, the final situation would inevitably be mutual destruction. Boom! The three looked at each other. The 6 ultimate mysteries appeared, all containing the will of the heavenly Tao. Outside, Qin Feiyang looked at the inner demons. His eyes flashed. With a wave of his hand, the 3,000 clones disappeared without a trace. The inner demons were stunned. But in the blink of an eye, they understood. This must be to open the eye of heaven. A trace of mockery appeared at the corner of his mouth. His divine sense emerged and locked onto the black tortoise world in an instant. Following closely, the various ultimate mysteries appeared and went straight to the black tortoise world. Although the black tortoise world had evolved, it couldn't withstand the inner demon's ultimate mysteries. 6 ultimate mysteries, the life and death mysteries, and 2 heavenly Tao wills, plus the demon king true body. This was already far beyond a mid-grade dominator weapon. Even a high-grade sovereign weapon would be destroyed in the face of an inner demon. However, just as the various ultimate laws were about to reach the black tortoise world, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air with 3,000 incarnations behind him. Above him were more than 50,000 ultimate laws. This was the ultimate secret of the replication maniac, white-eyed wolf, and Long Qin. So fast? The inner demon's expression froze. Otherwise, do you think that I would be so bold as to expose the black tortoise realm to the outside world? The entire black tortoise realm is enveloped in a time array. Even if it's only been an instant outside, a long time has passed in the black tortoise world. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. 3,000 clones, and he had activated his 7 ultimate meanings. In the blink of an eye, the number reached more than 70,000. Apart from the 3,000 realms of life and death, the rest were all ultimate profundities of the strongest laws. What kind of scene was this? Even the inner demons couldn't help but feel a trace of fear in their eyes. Not to mention Yu Lao and the others. As spectators, they couldn't help but feel a sense of despair when they saw the 70,000 ultimate profundities. The outcome has been decided, Qin Feiyang said. The 3,000 clones waved their hands, and the 70,000 ultimate profundities instantly turned into a torrent that rushed toward the inner demons. Eye of Heaven, if not for the Eye of Heaven, he wouldn't have been able to defeat Lu Yuntian. Neptune and the dragon god clenched their fists tightly. Why was the heavens so unfair? Not only had this person comprehended the law of life and death, but he had also activated the 10 strongest war souls. All the good luck had fallen on this person's head. Don't be impatient. We still have one more prodigy. Yu Lao sneered. Hearing this, Neptune, the dragon god, and the king were stunned and immediately looked toward Lu Jiajin. As expected. At this time, Lu Jiajin looked very relaxed. He didn't even feel nervous. He's so calm. What kind of heaven-defying means does this person have? The 5 of them were surprised. One must know. This was more than 70,000 ultimate profundities of the strongest law. Even the dragon god's domain wouldn't be able to withstand it. Boom! Accompanied by a loud noise, the 20,000 ultimate profundities of the inner demons were no match for Qin Feiyang's side and were crushed into pieces. Right at this moment, Lu Jiajin moved. He took a step forward and instantly landed in front of the inner demons. Seeing Lu Jiajin appear, the inner demons couldn't help but laugh. Qin Feiyang also looked at Lu Jiajin with anticipation. Boom! The next moment, a gray wave of air surged out and soared into the sky like a roaring ocean. A mysterious aura surged out as well. What is this? Qin Feiyang frowned. Is this the Eye of Nothingness? However, the Eye of Nothingness shouldn't be in this form. He remembered that when Big Cousin had activated the Eye of Nothingness in the past, a fire wave rushed into the sky and then evolved into a huge fiery red eye. The strongest war soul, the Eye of Nothingness. Lu Jiajin let out a calm smile as a gray eye appeared in the sky. Immediately, a shocking aura burst out from it. It's really the Eye of Nothingness. Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled. Chapter 4196. But why was the current Eye of Nothingness different from the previous Eye of Nothingness? Could it be, Big Cousin's Eye of Nothingness had evolved? At the same time, the king and the other 2 couldn't help but tremble. This Lu Yunfeng was actually the owner of the Eye of Nothingness? It was really unexpected. No wonder Yu Lao was so calm. One Lu Yuntian was already so terrifying. Now with Lu Yunfeng, who had the Eye of Nothingness, wouldn't Qin Feiyang lose without a doubt? As for whether the Eye of Nothingness had evolved or not, they didn't doubt it at all. Because if it hadn't evolved, this person wouldn't have opened the Eye of Nothingness now. Because an unevolved Eye of Nothingness was useless against Qin Feiyang. In other words, as long as Lu Jiajin opened the Eye of Nothingness now, it must have evolved. The dragon god and Neptune's hearts were also in turmoil. But then, they became excited. This was excitement. The divine kingdom finally had a person with the strongest battle soul. If, even the owner of the Eye of Nothingness was beside Qin Feiyang, then the divine kingdom was really in danger. In my name, everything in the world will turn into nothingness. Lu Jiajin opened his mouth, his voice was ethereal and dignified. The next moment, the Eye of Nothingness opened, and waves of invisible aura surged like a tide. What? Black Tortoise World. Frenzy and the others who were sitting on the chairs suddenly stood up. The others also opened their eyes wide in anger. Including Qin Feiyang outside. After the Eye of Nothingness opened, the more than 70,000 ultimates that were attacking the inner demons and Lu Jiajin all turned into nothingness in an instant. They didn't see wrong. They all disappeared in an instant. There was no fluctuation. It was as if they had evaporated into thin air. No. It was even more shocking than evaporation. It was really the law that followed the words. Everything in the world turned into nothingness. This is impossible, I must be dreaming. Even the king and the other 2 and Neptune couldn't help but doubt the scene in front of them. So many ultimates had all disappeared in an instant. Was it magic? That's not right. Back then, the Eye of Nothingness could only nullify the fighting soul's gifted superpower. How is it possible for the ultimate profound to disappear now? Black Tortoise World. The white-eyed wolf came back to his senses and asked in surprise. It might be related to evolution. In other words, this is the true Eye of Nothingness. Long Chen said. It has already evolved, the true Eye of Nothingness, the white-eyed wolf muttered. Did that mean that the other half of the Eye of Nothingness was in the Central Dynasty? And Lu Jiajin had stolen his Eye of the Void in the Central Dynasty? This is a good thing. The inner demons are so strong, and Lu Jiajin's Eye of Nothingness has evolved. Our overall strength has increased by a large margin. Madman laughed loudly. When the others heard this, they could not help but reveal a smile on their faces. That was right. No matter what difficulties the inner demons and Lu Jiajin had, they would return to them sooner or later. At that time, their team would be even stronger. Destroying the sovereign of the divine kingdom would be much easier. Hee. You didn't expect to encounter one of the 10 strongest battle souls, the Eye of Nothingness. Outside. The inner demons stared at Qin Feiyang and laughed. Phew. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and nodded. Indeed, I didn't expect this. What he meant by didn't expect was that his cousin's Eye of Nothingness had evolved. In the past, he was still looking for the Eye of Nothingness and wanted to help his cousin. Who would have thought that his cousin had already obtained the other half? Wasn't this equivalent to wasting his efforts? So now, do you still want to continue? We are not gentlemen. The inner demons smiled sinisterly. In other words, if they continued to fight, he would join forces with Lu Jiajin. Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them. One-on-one, whether it was the inner demons or his cousin, he was confident. However, if the two of them joined forces, it would be a different story. He glanced at Yu Lao and the others standing at the entrance of the Star River. It seemed that this battle couldn't continue. The inner demons actually had the same intention. After fighting for so long, it was about time. If they continued to fight, Qin Feiyang would definitely lose a layer of skin even if he didn't die. Therefore, it was better to find a chance to slip away as soon as possible. After all, there was still the dragon god eyeing them covetously. They didn't care about the strength of the dragon god himself, but they had to care about the power of origin. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He suddenly looked at the entrance of the Star River and seemed to have discovered something. He exclaimed, "The sovereign of the divine kingdom." What? Lord Sovereign. When Elder Yu and the others heard this, a trace of pleasant surprise instantly crawled up their faces, and they hurriedly turned around to look. However, when they turned around and looked outside the Star River, they found that the sovereign of the divine kingdom was nowhere to be seen. Oh no! We've been fooled. They quickly turned around and looked at Qin Feiyang. They found him. Qin Feiyang had opened a space-time passage and entered it. Stop him! Yu Lao shouted at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin were stunned. In fact, they knew very well that Qin Feiyang was trying to divert their attention. After all, they knew Qin Feiyang too well. In order to cooperate with Qin Feiyang and give Qin Feiyang time to leave, they also pretended to look at the entrance of the Star River. Now, hearing Yu Lao's roar, they were stunned at first. Then they looked away and looked at the space-time passage. Bastard! How dare you trick us? The inner demons immediately showed a furious look. They activated an ultimate profound meaning and blasted it at the space-time passage. Boom! The space-time passage shattered on the spot. Purple-gold dragon blood spilled out from the shattered void, but there was no trace of Qin Feiyang. At the same time, in the sky above a mountain, Qin Feiyang ran out of the collapsed space-time passage in a sorry state. He was covered in blood. Looking around, except for some beasts, he didn't find anyone else. He turned to look at the collapsed passage and smiled bitterly. This bastard really doesn't know how to show mercy. The inner demon's ultimate profound meaning that collapsed the space-time passage had caused him some injuries. Fortunately, he had been teleported here at that time. Otherwise, he would have fallen out of the space-time passage and appeared in the Star River. Phew! After letting out a long breath, Qin Feiyang directly entered the Black Tortoise realm. Star River. At this moment, the atmosphere was extremely depressing. Yu Lao, Neptune, and the Dragon God stared at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin with heavy expressions. The king and the other two were also very angry on the surface, but they were relieved in their hearts. Fortunately, they escaped quickly. Otherwise, if the Dragon God attacked, they would be in big trouble. You can't blame us for this. He's too cunning. The inner demons coughed and looked at Yu Lao awkwardly. It would have been better if he didn't speak, but once he did, Yu Lao went berserk. You stop. The inner demons quickly stretched out his hand and said with a dark face, "Don't scold people. Besides, if you want to blame someone, blame the Dragon God." Blame me? The Dragon God looked at the inner demons in a daze. How did this matter involve him? Nonsense. You have the power of origin. When my brother opened the Eye of Nothingness, you should have attacked. The inner demons said. How would I know that he would suddenly slip away? The Dragon God said angrily. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin suppressed Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's death was a foregone conclusion. He didn't even need to do anything. And he never thought that Qin Feiyang would be able to escape. After all, there were so many of them here. But the other party's cunning was completely beyond imagination. He knew that they respected the ruler, so he used the ruler to divert their attention. That's right. You fought with him for so long, and even you didn't think that he would suddenly slip away. We just met him officially for the first time. How would we know that he was such a cunning person? The inner demons said it so methodically that Yu Lao and the others couldn't refute. Sigh. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's a pity that we missed it. I don't know how long we'll have to wait for the next time. The king sighed deeply, his words full of regret. Next time? You're thinking too much. Qin Feiyang already knows about Lu Yuntian and Lu Yunfeng. They definitely won't show up again until they're 100% sure. The human sovereign shook his head. It's all someone's fault. The opportunity was right in front of them. I don't know why they hesitated at that time. Could it be that they're really colluding with Qin Feiyang? The Divine King glanced at the Dragon God gloomily. Who are you talking about? The Dragon God immediately glared at the Divine King. Did he think that he deliberately didn't make a move? You know who I'm talking about. The Divine King snorted coldly. You, the Dragon God was burning with anger. He had already explained. What else did he want? Enough. Elder Yu roared as he gloomily swept his gaze over the group. Let's think of another way. After saying that, he removed the seal on the entrance of the Star River and left without looking back. The king and the other two looked at each other and also turned to leave. Bastard! The Dragon God clenched his hands and stared at the shattered Star River. His eyes were burning with anger. What's the use of being angry? Let's go. The Sea King patted him on the shoulder, sighed deeply, and left. I won't let you go. I definitely won't. The Dragon God gritted his teeth and roared. He also turned around and left the Star River angrily. Only the inner demons and Lu Jiajin were left here. I didn't expect this guy to be like a loach. I've really underestimated him. The inner demons shook his head and smiled. Actually, we should have thought of it. Otherwise, how could he be so arrogant in the Divine Kingdom for so long? Lu Jiajin sighed. Now you understand. No matter who the opponent is, we can't underestimate them. Suddenly, a dignified voice resounded. Following closely. A stream of light rushed out from Lu Jiajin's body and turned into a blurry figure. Greetings, Emperor. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin actually bowed to this person. And this title was shocking enough. Emperor, this was probably the emperor in charge of the central dynasty. You're not weak, but unfortunately, you're too arrogant. Especially you, Lu Yuntian. You're arrogant and don't put anyone in your eyes. Now look, you've suffered. There was a trace of dissatisfaction in the emperor's tone. Got it. I'll be more careful next time. You're so long-winded. The inner demon snorted. You're still in the right? Looking at the attitude of the inner demons, the emperor was angry. Emperor, please calm down. Lu Jiajin hurriedly came out to smooth things over. He smiled and said, "You've seen Qin Feiyang's strength with your own eyes. What do you think of him now? He's a talent. If he can be used by us, that's the best. But if not, then he must be eliminated." The emperor pondered for a while and said. The first half of the sentence had a trace of appreciation, but the second half of the sentence had a shocking murderous intent. Chapter 4198. At the same time. The Black Tortoise World. I didn't expect the inner demons to become so strong. If it weren't for the Eye of Heaven, little Qin Zi wouldn't have been able to defeat him. In the tea garden. The white-eyed wolf said in disbelief. Yes. Madman nodded in agreement. The Demon King's true body, the law of life and death, and the 6 strongest laws. He was not inferior to Qin Feiyang at all. No. The inner demons haven't shown their full strength yet. Long Chen suddenly waved his hand. Everyone looked at him in surprise. The inner demons and Qin Feiyang are the same person. Their methods can be shared. So the inner demons can also open the Eye of Heaven. Maybe because they are afraid of exposing their identities, they didn't share Qin Feiyang's methods. Long Chen said. Yes. The white-eyed wolf patted his head. The inner demons and Qin Feiyang's methods could be shared. No. But Qin Feiyang suddenly waved his hand. No? Everyone was stunned. What did he mean? I tried to open the Demon King's true body of the inner demons, but I found that I can't share it now. The inner demons also responded at that time. Now we can't share it. It was also because I found that I couldn't share it that I decisively opened the Eye of Heaven and won an overwhelming victory. Qin Feiyang explained. Can't share it? What's going on? It can't be. The white-eyed wolf frowned. He knew the situation between Qin Feiyang and the inner demons better than anyone else. Thinking back to the demonic dragon island, after the inner demons succeeded in transcending the tribulation, the inner demons could open both divine arts and battle souls. But now, why couldn't they? Swish. Suddenly. The white-eyed wolf glanced at Long Chen and Long Qin. Why are you looking at us? Long Qin was suspicious. The white-eyed wolf snorted, It must be your father's doing again. Long Qin and Long Chen looked at each other and immediately rolled their eyes. How could anything be related to their father? According to what you said, the inner demons being able to comprehend the Demon King true body and the evolution of Lu Jiajin's Eye of Nothingness must be related to my father. Then shouldn't you be thanking him? Long Qin said with a sullen face. How could this be related to your father? The white-eyed wolf sneered. Yeah. Then how do you know that the changes in the inner demons are related to my father? If you have a mind to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. You're just making wild guesses without any evidence. Long Qin glared at him. Who knows? The white-eyed wolf pouted. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. After Long Qin finished speaking, he turned around and left angrily. This question, Qin Feiyang turned to look at the white-eyed wolf, shook his head, and said, without evidence, you really can't talk nonsense. Besides, it's not a bad thing that you can't share. It's not a bad thing. The white-eyed wolf was stunned. Yes. Didn't the inner demons always want to be independent? Isn't it just what they want now? Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. The inner demons now were equivalent to completely getting rid of the fate of the inner demons and becoming a true independent self. This should be happy for the inner demons. That's true. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, then shouldn't you apologize to Long Qin? Apologize? The white-eyed wolf was slightly stunned and laughed angrily. Do you think that's possible? Madman patted the white-eyed wolf on the shoulder and said with a smile, Brother Wolf, you're a man. A man should be able to pick up and let go. Get lost. The white-eyed wolf glared at him. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang, saying, is it possible that this inner demons is not the inner demons we know at all? In other words, he's a fake? Huh? Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf. Fake? Wasn't this line of thought jumping too quickly? He couldn't keep up with the pace. Fake, impossible. After all, no one can replace the connection between Qin Feiyang and the inner demons. Besides, Lu Jiajin's eye of nothingness is unique. Who has the ability to fake it? Long Chen shook his head. That's true. The white-eyed wolf nodded and glanced at the direction Long Qin left without leaving a trace. He bared his teeth and said, Brother is going for a stroll. Fire Dance had been paying attention to the white-eyed wolf from beginning to end. When she heard the white-eyed wolf's words, her eyes flashed slightly as she said with a smile, I'll accompany you. Huh? The white-eyed wolf's expression suddenly became a little flustered as he laughed awkwardly. What's there to accompany? Hurry up and go into seclusion. If I tell you to go, then go. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Fire Dance's eyes turned cold as she twisted the white-eyed wolf's ear and walked towards the direction Long Qin left. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Sister Feng, be gentle, the white-eyed wolf immediately wailed. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but shake their heads and laugh. The others also dispersed one after another. At the scene, only Qin Feiyang, Long Chen, Frenzy, Mu Qing, Demon Ancestor, and Mu Tianyang were left. Frenzy looked at Demon Ancestor and asked, how long do you need to master the will of heaven? It's hard to say. Demon Ancestor shook his head. If it was just fusing, it would be quite fast. But the problem now was that they needed to comprehend it first. Only after comprehending the corresponding laws could they fuse the ultimate profound. This depended on one's talent and comprehension ability. Hurry up. The current situation is getting worse and worse. Frenzy sighed. If the Central Dynasty didn't interfere, they could still deal with it with their strength. But now, it was a bit tricky. Especially the inner demons and Lu Jiajin, who knew what they were afraid of. Originally, they planned to ask the inner demons and Lu Jiajin about the Central Dynasty's foundation. It would be easier to deal with it if they knew the foundation of the Central Dynasty. But now, even if they were face to face, they couldn't communicate. Tell me, what difficulties do they have? Frenzy frowned. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin weren't weak now, so there was no reason for them to be so timid. Maybe they are being monitored. Qin Feiyang sighed. Because from the current performance of the two, they met the conditions of being monitored. Monitoring? Mu Qing was taken aback and frowned, with the inner demon's character, who would dare to monitor him? Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang, and Demon Ancestor were naturally very clear about the temper of the inner demons. Dare to monitor him? Even if it was the Emperor, he would dare to resist. Demon Ancestor pondered for a while and said, I guess the biggest possibility is that they should be planning something. What are they planning? Everyone murmured. Let's not talk about this first. Long Chen waved his hand, picked up the teacup, and took a sip. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, seeing that the inner demons and Lu Jiajin didn't die, did your hatred for my father in your heart disappear a little? Qin Feiyang lowered his head in silence. Frankly speaking, when he saw the inner demons and big cousin appear in front of him alive, the hatred in his heart for Ice Dragon did indeed fade a lot. But to really let it go, he couldn't do it now. If back then, If back then, my father left the inner demons and Lu Jiajin behind, not to hurt them but to train them, in that case, would you still hate him? Long Chen asked with a smile. Train them? Qin Feiyang frowned. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin's talent are definitely not bad. But, think about it carefully. If no one trained them carefully, could they grow so fast? And the person who nurtured them is definitely my father. Long Chen said with a smile. Qin Feiyang's heart was in a mess. Ice Dragon had targeted him time and time again. Would he be kind enough to train the inner demons and big cousin? Wasn't this a fantasy? But now, the strength of the inner demons and big cousin was indeed in front of him. Without the careful training of a supreme expert, it was impossible for them to grow so fast. Then all of this must be related to Ice Dragon. Ice Dragon, what was this old thing trying to do? This matter, Demon Ancestor pondered for a while and said with a smile, let's wait for the inner demons and Lu Jiajin to come back and hear what they have to say before making a decision. Phew. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said, now, the eye of nihility, eye of heaven, eye of evil, eye of despair, eye of life, eye of destiny, and eye of heaven have all evolved. The eye of destruction and eye of oblivion have also been found. Only the eye of reincarnation is left. Speaking of the eye of reincarnation, Long Chen's eyes flashed with a strange light. But it disappeared very quickly, like a flash in the pan, no one noticed. Frenzy frowned and said, could the other half of the eye of reincarnation also be in the central dynasty? It's possible. Demon Ancestor and the other two nodded. If the other half of the eye of reincarnation is really in the central dynasty, then the inner demons and big cousin will definitely know. Seems like we have to find a chance to ask them. Qin Feiyang said thoughtfully. How do we ask? Frenzy was suspicious. Even voice transmissions were taboo, let alone directly asking. There's a way. But I'm thinking, if the eye of reincarnation isn't in the central dynasty, where should we find it? Qin Feiyang frowned. Mu Qing said, if it's not in the central dynasty, then it's very likely in the sky cloud domain. It's just that this person hides very well, so no one knows. Then is it possible that it's in the ancient realm? Mu Tianyang asked. Impossible. Qin Badian has been in the ancient realm for so many years. If the other half of the eye of reincarnation is really in the ancient realm, it would have been discovered by him. Demon Ancestor waved his hand. That's true. Mu Tianyang nodded. Back in the ancient realm, as the sovereign of the Dragon Slayer Palace, Qin Badian could be said to be an existence that could cover the sky with one hand. What could escape his eyes and ears? Let's look in the 4 great continents first. We'll ask the monarch, the divine king, and the human race for help. With their help, no matter how low-key this person is, he won't be able to escape the monarch's pursuit. If there's no one in the 4 great continents, then we'll target the central dynasty. If there's no one in the 4 great continents in the central dynasty, then when we return to the sky cloud domain, we'll do another round of investigation. Qin Feiyang said. That's the only way for now. The Demon Ancestor and the other two nodded. That's fine. Hurry up and cultivate. Senior brother, let's go find the white-eyed wolf. We'll go out later. Qin Feiyang finished the tea in his cup and stood up with a smile. Where are we going? Frenzy was suspicious. After this battle, Yu Lao and the others will definitely think that we'll be quiet for a while. So, they will more or less relax their vigilance. This is undoubtedly an opportunity for us. Qin Feiyang said, his eyes flashing. When Frenzy heard this, he suddenly came to a realization and the corner of his mouth raised into a playful smile. Chapter 4199. On the other side. The white-eyed wolf was suffering. Fire Dance kept pulling his ear, making him beg for mercy in pain. After a while, Fire Dance finally loosened her grip and snorted through her nose. The white-eyed wolf rubbed his ear and complained, "Sister Phone, can't you talk nicely? There are so many people watching. How embarrassing would it be for me if I had to resort to violence? You're so thick-skinned. Do you still need face? Let's talk about it later. I'm giving you face. Have you ever given me face?" Fire Dance glared at him angrily. "Why didn't I give you face?" The white-eyed wolf felt wronged. She didn't fight back when he was hit or scolded. What else did she want him to do? Fire Dance said angrily, "You're flirting with Long Qin in front of me. Is this giving me face? Flirting? What do you mean?" As soon as she said this, the white-eyed wolf felt wronged. There was no such thing. What do you want me to say about you? Go and ask everyone. Who didn't see that unusual relationship between you two? Only the two of you didn't notice it. Fire Dance rubbed her forehead. Why did she fall for such a fool? An extraordinary relationship? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. Was there? No way. He was against Long Qin from the bottom of his heart. They usually didn't like each other. How did it become unusual? It's indeed a mystery of the authorities. The onlooker sees more clearly. Fire Dance shook her head and sighed. Don't say that. Don't misunderstand. There's really nothing between me and her. The white-eyed wolf hurriedly explained. I didn't misunderstand. Besides, even if there's really something between you two, it doesn't matter. Because we're not married yet. We're free to love. Fire Dance said lightly. Huh? What do you mean? Don't tell me that you've fallen in love with someone else. The white-eyed wolf's face turned slightly pale. What nonsense are you talking about? Fire Dance glared at him. He made it sound like she was a promiscuous woman. That's good. White-eyed wolf heaved a sigh of relief. He hugged Huo Wu's slender waist and bared his teeth. Little sister Phone, don't worry. In this life, I will only marry you. If anyone dares to stop me, I will exterminate their entire family. You're not being serious. Fire Dance rolled her eyes, but she was touched. She snuggled into the white-eyed wolf's embrace and smiled. Actually, I won't object if you're interested in Long Qin. But you can't abandon the old for the new. White-eyed wolf was taken aback. He lowered his head to look at Fire Dance's face and asked cautiously, "Are you testing me?" Fire Dance rolled her eyes again. After being in love for so long, he still didn't understand her. Was she such a cunning woman? Huh, White-eyed wolf knew that he had said something wrong and quickly smiled apologetically. Actually, Long Qin is not bad. But the key is her identity. She is the apple of Ice Dragon and Long Zun's eyes. Ice Dragon and Long Zun will definitely not allow the two of you to be together. Taking a step back, even if the two of them agree and you and Long Qin really get together, how will you choose your side when Qin Feiyang and Ice Dragon fall out? Fire Dance furrowed her beautiful brows, looking rather annoyed. However, White-Eyed Wolf was speechless when he heard that. He comforted her, "Don't worry. That will never happen. Don't say that too early." Fire Dance shook her head. White-Eyed Wolf rubbed his forehead helplessly. Why didn't she believe it? All right. Fire Dance shook her head and got up. Let's not talk about this for now. Hurry up and apologize. Apologize for what? White-Eyed Wolf asked guiltily. Still pretending? Didn't you find an excuse to leave so that you can apologize to Longqin? Fire Dance looked down on him. Huh, White-Eyed Wolf laughed dryly. It didn't seem to be a good thing for a woman to be too smart. You're a man. Don't dilly-dally. Also, you're a man. You have to be more open-minded. Don't be calculative with women. Fire Dance glared at him. Okay. I'll listen to you. White-Eyed Wolf nodded and kissed Fire Dance's cheek unexpectedly. Then, he ran away without a trace. Fire Dance's cheeks turned red. But then, she sighed bitterly. Although she said it very generously, which woman in the world didn't want to have a complete love? The Devil's Land. In the West. Bastard. You're simply unreasonable. A woman sat on a rock, grabbed a small stone next to her, and kept smashing the medicinal herbs in front of her. Her red face was full of anger. It was Longqin. Cough, cough. Suddenly, there was a cough behind her. Longqin was shocked. She turned her head and glared at the person who came, saying angrily, "Are you trying to scare me to death? If you're angry, just come at me. Don't waste the medicinal herbs here, okay?" White-Eyed Wolf was unhappy. "I'm happy too. Besides, Qin Feiyang didn't say anything. Why are you interfering? Just looking at you makes me upset. Get lost." Longqin snorted coldly. White-Eyed Wolf smiled awkwardly, walked to Longqin's side, and braced himself. "I'll apologize to you." Apologize? Longqin was surprised. "I'm telling you, don't push your luck. Lowering my head and apologizing is already my greatest limit." For White-Eyed Wolf, apologizing was indeed quite difficult. Because he was a person who cared about his face. "You're not sincere." Longqin snorted coldly. "Then what do you want?" White-Eyed Wolf frowned. Were all women so difficult to deal with? Apologize. Shouldn't you have the attitude of an apology? Look at you now. Do you look like you're apologizing? People who don't know will think that I owe you a debt. Longqin glared at him angrily. White-Eyed Wolf was stunned. He controlled his temper, bowed, and said, "I'm sorry. I sincerely apologize to you. Please forgive me." That's more like it. Longqin muttered, but his attitude was very arrogant. His attitude was that he didn't accept his apology. White-Eyed Wolf couldn't help but feel angry. "You said that my attitude isn't good. Fine, I'll change my attitude. My attitude now is good enough, but you're giving me a cold shoulder." "What do you mean?" "If you don't answer, I'll take it that you've accepted my apology." White-Eyed Wolf asked. "Whatever." Longqin waved his hand indifferently. But his expression did soften a lot. "I can't understand a woman's mind." White-Eyed Wolf shook his head. After pondering for a while, he looked at Longqin and said, "Well, there's something I want to discuss with you." "What's the matter?" Longqin was suspicious. "Let's bicker in the future," White-Eyed Wolf said. Longqin turned to look at White-Eyed Wolf. "I'm afraid that everyone will misunderstand. Now everyone is already discussing that we're suspected of flirting. So I think we should calm down in the future. Don't quarrel so easily. It doesn't matter to you. After all, you're single. But I'm different. I'm taken now. What if Sister Feng misunderstands? White-Eyed Wolf said. She's taken? Long Qin rolled his eyes. How shameless. He didn't know where he found the confidence to praise himself like this. What do you think? White-Eyed Wolf asked with a smile. He didn't feel that there was anything wrong with praising himself like this. You have the nerve to ask? Even if everyone misunderstands, I'm the one who will suffer the most. After all, I'm a woman. Besides, is it wrong for me to be single? Do I deserve to be unlucky because I'm single? Long Qin said angrily. Aren't men and women equal now? White-Eyed Wolf bared his teeth. Get lost. Long Qin's face darkened. The more she spoke, the angrier she became. Okay. I'll get lost. White-Eyed Wolf nodded and quickly turned to leave. He was afraid that if this continued, they would quarrel again. Looking at White-Eyed Wolf's back view leaving without looking back, Long Qin felt a trace of disappointment in her heart. Even she was a little confused by this inexplicable emotion. What are you thinking about? Not long after, Qin Feiyang and Frenzy came over. Seeing White-Eyed Wolf, who was absent-minded and silent with his head lowered, and didn't even notice that he had stepped on the herbs in the herb field, they couldn't help but ask suspiciously. White-Eyed Wolf quivered. He looked up at Qin Feiyang and Frenzy and asked in confusion, "Why are you here? You still haven't noticed us?" The two looked at each other. This wolf cub seemed a little strange. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a handsome guy before? White-Eyed Wolf glared at the two. What did you say to Long Qin? Frenzy was curious. Nothing. White-Eyed Wolf shook his head, but then he glared at Frenzy and said, "Why are you like a woman, so gossipy? What does it have to do with you?" Frenzy was stunned. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked suspiciously, "Did he suffer some kind of stimulation?" "Who knows?" Qin Feiyang shrugged. "What's the matter?" White-Eyed Wolf looked at the two impatiently. In fact, when he turned to leave Long Qin, an inexplicable emotion rose in his heart. It seemed that something was missing. Moreover, this inexplicable emotion was getting stronger and stronger. So he was a little irritable. "It's nothing serious. I just want you to go out for a walk." Qin Feiyang laughed. "I'm not in the mood." White-Eyed Wolf shook his head and brushed past the two. Qin Feiyang and Frenzy looked at each other. But after taking a few steps, White-Eyed Wolf suddenly stopped, pondered for a moment, and muttered, "It's good to go out and relax." He then turned around to look at Qin Feiyang and the other man, and urged, "What are you standing there for? Let's go." The two were stunned. Wasn't he not in the mood? Qingtian City. He was no longer unfamiliar with this city. However, it was the first time Qin Feiyang and the other two entered this city. The three of them changed their appearances and rushed to the sky above the city. The city guards came forward to interrogate them, but when they took out the Mount Supreme Law Enforcer token, they didn't dare to ask anything and immediately let them go. Back then, Qin Feiyang had always kept the identity token given to them by the human race supreme being, because it would definitely be useful in the future. Although this time, they didn't wear the uniform of the law enforcers, as long as they had the token, it was enough to pass through unimpeded. In a restaurant, the three of them sat in the hall. Because they weren't wearing the uniform of the law enforcers and had put away the token, no one paid attention to them. All kinds of discussions were endless. What was the result of the battle between Qin Feiyang and the king in the Void Land? Doesn't anyone know? I do know a little. Really? Of course, I was in the Void Land at that time, but the entrance to the Star River was sealed, so I couldn't enter the Star River to watch the battle with my own eyes." As soon as these words came out, it immediately aroused the curiosity of everyone in the hall. Chapter 4200. Qin Feiyang and the other two also looked over with interest. It turned out to be a burly man dressed in ordinary clothes with a face full of stubble, looking a bit sloppy. "You can, but today's wine," the bearded man glanced at the people in the hall. Although he didn't finish his words, the meaning was quite obvious. "Uncle, I'll treat you to this wine." A young man in a brocade robe laughed proudly. "How can I accept?" The bearded man quickly waved his hand. Just when the young man in brocade thought that the burly man was going to be polite to him, the bearded man beckoned to the waiter not far away. "Huh?" Everyone looked at the burly man in confusion. The waiter ran to the burly man's table. "Give me 10 jars of God's nectar," the bearded man said with a smile, and then pointed to the young man in brocade. "Put it on that little brother's tab." The young man in brocade's mouth twitched. He really thought that he was going to be polite to him. It seemed that he was too naive. The waiter was also stunned and couldn't help but look at the young man in brocade and ask, "Young master, you see, go, go, go." The young man in brocade was helpless. Since he had already said it, how could he take it back? "Okay. 10 jars of God's nectar will be sent right away." The waiter immediately shouted and turned around to leave. "Brother, can you tell me now?" The young man in brocade was very distressed. He often came to this restaurant and knew the price of God's nectar. 10 jars of God's nectar would cost him half a month of pocket money. "No hurry, no hurry." The bearded man waved his hand. The young man in brocade's face darkened. Still keeping people in suspense? After a while, several waiters ran over with 2 jars and neatly placed them on the burly man's table. The burly man couldn't wait to open the jar. Wine dragon. The white-eyed wolf and the madman's eyes lit up. It was divine wine. This divine kingdom was really unusual. To think that such a small restaurant would actually have divine wine hidden in it. The bearded man held the jar and gulped it down like a whale. After a while, the jar was emptied. The bearded man finally put down the altar in satisfaction and turned to the young man in brocade and said gratefully, "Thank you, little brother." "You're welcome." The young man in embroidered clothes waved his hand with a fake smile. No one knows about the battle in the Milky Way. Because the entrance to the Star River is sealed, no one can enter the Star River. The bearded man said. "Then what are you talking about?" The brocade-robed youth's face turned black and he immediately stepped forward to take away the rest of the God's nectar. "Little brother, don't worry, don't worry. Let me finish." The bearded man hurriedly stopped the golden-robed youth and said with a smile, "Although I didn't witness the battle in the Star River with my own eyes, when the monarch and the others came out of the Star River, I could still see many clues." The youth in embroidered clothes withdrew his arm and frowned. "What clue?" The bearded man said, "Your Majesty, the divine king, the sovereign of the human race, was in a remnant soul state at that time." "What? Remnant soul state?" Everyone's face was filled with shock. "That's right. According to our speculation, they must have been seriously injured by Qin Feiyang. Think about it. Even the monarch and the other two were beaten to the point that only their souls were left. You can imagine how intense the battle in the galaxy was." The bearded man said. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. In fact, they didn't know that the monarch and the other two had been seriously injured before entering the Star River. It was just that no one could get close to the central area in the Void Land, so they thought that the monarch and the other two were seriously injured by Qin Feiyang in the Star River. And Neptune, the dragon god, and the old man from the Central Dynasty, although they didn't have any injuries, their faces were extremely ugly. Obviously, Qin Feiyang must have the upper hand in the battle in the Star River. The bearded man smiled. Your Majesty, the Divine King, the Sovereign, Neptune, the Dragon God, and the experts from the Central Dynasty, such a powerful lineup, but they couldn't do anything to Qin Feiyang. What kind of monster is this man? Everyone was in disbelief. It's not an exaggeration to say that he's a monster. But, previously, another piece of news came from the East Continent. It seems like Qin Feiyang was defeated in this battle. The bearded man frowned. What? Qin Feiyang lost? Everyone was stunned. Yes. It said that the news was released by the beast race. They said that there are two great geniuses in the Central Dynasty, one called Lu Yuntian and the other Lu Yunfeng, who are a pair of brothers. According to the news released by the beast race, the two brothers are very powerful. In the end, it seems that Qin Feiyang was defeated and fled in panic. The bearded man said. No way. Qin Feiyang has 3,000 incarnations, the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, and the eye of heaven. How could he be defeated? Many people were in disbelief. So, I can't tell whether the news released by the beast race is true or false. But no matter what, the ones who suffered in this battle are definitely the monarch and the others. The bearded man shook his head and sighed. Why are you sighing? It has nothing to do with you. The brocade-robed young man rolled his eyes. This news was not worth 10 jars of God's nectar. Although I'm not strong enough, I'm still a member of the Divine Kingdom. As the saying goes, we're bound together for good or ill. The fact that the monarch and the others were defeated by Qin Feiyang is also a trampling on me. I feel sad and indignant. The bearded man sighed. Then, he hugged another jar of wine and gulped it down. Hearing this, the people around fell silent. Yes. They were all members of the Divine Kingdom. They were bound together for good or ill. Why don't we all go and crusade against Qin Feiyang? Suddenly, someone shouted. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. And it aroused public indignation? It seemed that everything he was doing now was for the good of the people of the Divine Kingdom. Logically speaking, she should have thanked him. Crusade? Forget it. Although there's strength in numbers, Qin Feiyang's strength has far exceeded the limit of this sentence. It's no exaggeration to say that his strength alone is now enough to destroy the entire human race. So we ordinary people shouldn't join in the fun. The bearded man shook his head. Yes. With our strength, we'll only add to the chaos. The brocade-robed young man nodded. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. These people were still a little bit rational. There's breaking news. At this time, accompanied by a hurried roar, a black-clothed young man hurried over from the gunship. In an instant, the people in the hall all looked up. The black-clothed young man took a few breaths, glanced at the people in the hall, and walked to the brocade-robed young man and said, Brother Zhao, just a while ago, there was news from the East Continent that a man named Qin Badian appeared on the Sea God Island. What? Qin Badian? The brocade-robed young man stood up suddenly. The others were also excited. This Qin Badian was actually Qin Feiyang's ancestor, and his strength was also extremely terrifying. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and the other two's eyes were also full of doubts. Qin Badian? Why was the ancestor in the East Continent? Wait. The Qin Badian this person mentioned was not the ancestor, but the mysterious young man. Because this young man had always been pretending to be Qin Badian. Since entering the Divine Kingdom, the young man had left alone, and there was no news about him until now. But they never expected that he would appear on the Sea God Island now. Why did he go to the Sea God Island? Could it be that he heard about the inner demons and Lu Jiajin and wanted to experience it for himself? Are you really Qin Badian? The madman stood up, looked at the black-clothed young man, and asked. The black-clothed young man glanced at the madman and nodded. Yes, because I have a friend who has already rushed to the Sea God Island. The Sea God Island, the madman muttered, took out a few hundred soul stones, threw them on the table, and got up to open a space-time passage. Everyone looked at the madman with surprise. They didn't expect that he had mastered the space-time law. Let's go. The madman looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf and said. The three immediately walked in. Brothers, take us with you. The brocade-robed young man shouted, threw away the wine cup in his hand, and hurriedly ran toward the space-time passage. The black-clothed young man also quickly followed. The bearded man rolled his eyes, put away the remaining 8 jars of God's nectar on the table, and ran toward the space-time passage. Young master, you haven't paid the bill yet. Seeing this, the waiter of the restaurant hurriedly shouted to the brocade-robed young man. Put it on my bill, and I'll pay it another day. The brocade-robed young man said without turning his head. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.